Good afternoon, everybody. Yes, it's 3:02. I was so close to starting on time. Even was going to start, am starting in a way that you're all going to get to see the sausage made today. You're going to definitely get to see if I can multitask, because we're going to be doing the live stream here on the Chiefs Digest channel. I am going to be attempting to keep up to date the tracker over at ChiefsDigest.com as we get the roster moves in and keeping track of who is coming in, who is going off, who has made the team for the Chiefs this year. Probably a few other duties that I need to do, such as I need to invite Nick Jacobs to join the stream, because I just realized about 30 seconds ago I forgot to send Nick the invite. So I know he's probably watching right now and cracking himself up that I haven't sent the invite. Nick always likes to let me pontificate for a few moments before he comes in and everything. But if Nick is listening, he knows he's glad to come in anytime, because the earlier we get his insights, the better for everybody. I mean, here's how I will say that I'm not going to say it's rough, because there's nothing. Usually I could tell you about the rough parts of this job, nothing about today. The roughest part about today is that I do absolutely feel for the players that get cut, especially guys that this might be their last time on an NFL field. I mean, that's sad. Seeing their dreams come to an end, it's rough. And I know Dave Merritt just tweeted out about it. I can only imagine what it goes for guys like him, because they nurture these guys, they help them, they develop them, and having to say goodbye to them is hard. It's even tough from this side of the business. This is my least favorite day of the year, because either reaching out to players or their agents, and talking about their dream coming to an end, their livelihood, what they've been doing to make money coming to an end. It's not easy. It's not fun. So as entertained as I know that we all get from roster cutdowns and building the roster and looking forward to the new season, I always get a little contemplative on this day, and there's a little bit of me that does see the sorrow. So I'm going to try not to in it too much. I'm not going to try and get too depressed here, because there's a lot of good stories. Obviously, the Chiefs are going to have a couple of undrafted rookie free agents make this team. That's pretty impressive for a Super Bowl champion, for them to make it. Carson Steele, Chris Roland Wallace, safety, former college corner. If it weren't for Carson Steele, you'd be hearing a lot more about Chris Roland Wallace, because he just had a really impressive camp and just continued to climb up the roster through the very end. I would say right now, I mean, he would be, I would say at least probably the team's number 3 slot corner. That's kind of the role that he's kind of put himself into. He had a really good camp, really good preseason. They're working him into special teams now that obviously he's won a spot onto the 53. But there's a lot that he can do. They've been playing him in the slot. He can play in the box a little. They trust him on the back end. So he can back up at quite a few places. As the number 5 safety, he might not be active on a week-to-week basis. Maybe he will for special teams alone. I mean, we'll see what happens. But Roland Wallace is a really good story. Carson Steele is a great story. So there's a lot of stuff to talk about. We are going to answer your questions too. So if you got anything good, I went into the archive today, because for those of you, if any of you were here last year, that was the first live stream that I ever did on the Chiefs Digest channel, was for the cut down to 53 players on roster cut down day. This is the same graphic that I used last year on the cut down day. I went back and just pulled it out. Decided I wasn't going to make any changes to it just for nostalgic sake. We're just going to go back to it. That was my first time. That was August 29th. So almost a year ago today. For those of you, if you were here for that first live stream, by all means, go ahead and post in the comments. I'd love to hear about it and see it. Those of you who have come along the ride, thank you so much. I really, truly appreciate it. This has grown so much faster than I could have ever hoped for. So thank you all very much. But I've gone on enough. It's 4 minutes. I need to get right straight to the news. And there's probably, I know there's several of you who can tell me exactly how many players the Chiefs have on their roster right now. I don't, because I've been too busy just posting about them to actually count them. I know that the Chiefs were at 80 starting the day after the trade last night to pick up Cameron Thomas. So they get to 81 with the trade bringing in Peyton Hendershot to tie it in. We'll talk about him. So let's count down. Da, 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 da. We got Louis Reese-Zammit, Irv Smith Jr., Kadarius Toney, we know about Justin Ross, Derrick Prince, Swayze Bozeman, Chris Oladokin, 7, I guess I know about. So there's probably a few more. I know there's a lot that we suspect, and I believe that I saw that Nico Remigio was official as well, if not should be. So I think we're back down to about 72 players. So there's still a lot for the Chiefs to whittle away with here. 3 o'clock was the NFL deadline, so that's when they have to be submitted to the NFL. There's a period of time in which the NFL will put out their transactions and what's official. So that will be coming out. That could come out anytime between like now and 5 o'clock. You never kind of know with the NFL. The Chiefs reliably usually put out their list of the official moves at about 3:45. We'll be monitoring that to see if it pops up any sooner. But that's usually when the Chiefs make their final moves. And a little surprised we haven't heard more about some of the moves that the Chiefs have made. It's when they get the cut down. Just, hey, since I'm talking about the sausage and how it gets made here and everything, the way that we find out about the players who have been, released, waived, whatever the category, traded, they generally come from one of 3 sources. It's the players themselves have told a reporter or told someone that they've been released. Someone with a team has told someone, what the roster move is. An agent has told a reporter what the roster moves is. That's the 3 big ways that, we find out about these cuts and these moves and everything. So it can vary. The last couple of years, we really saw a big trend where more and more agents were keeping this information to themselves and either releasing it on their own through their own social media or only giving it to national reporters. So kind of hurts the locals like, myself. I get it. It's a business. So the national reporters can do more for them and different teams. So, it makes sense that, hey, they may just go ahead and give it to the reporter that's got the biggest exposure. I get that. So I can't really complain about it too much. If I had the audience of Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport, I would absolutely use it to get the best scoops and the biggest news and everything. But it's been kind of a trend over the last few years that it's just seems like information changes a little bit differently. Teams put out news a little bit differently. Like even when I learned that Chris Roland Wallace had made the team, that was kind of unusual because the Chiefs, usually the last person that the Chiefs tell has made the team are the guys who have made the team. I've talked to guys every year that they don't find out that they've made the team until maybe after the deadline, because the Chiefs are usually tell the guys who haven't made the team first. So it's one of those, no news is good news things. If you're the last person to hear that you've made the team, the chances are you've made the team. So it can be, I'm sure it's got to be excruciating for the players, just waiting to hear for sure their status. But like I said, I would expect in the next 30 minutes, we probably will get the complete list of Chiefs cuts. And if there's any more that kind of sneak out as we go here, and I have hidden my streaming screen, so let me pop back to it just so I can see if Nick has come in. But I'm gonna jump over to answer some of your questions too, just to get things started if anybody's got anything. And this is really funny that I have completely lost my stream. There it is. Nick is not here yet, so I'm checking back in on the comments. I did see the one from Steven was here last year on roster cut down. Yeah, Albert. Since we are doing it earlier, we won't be doing the stream later tonight. probably take a couple of hours off tonight. I was rushing home. I picked appropriately enough. I picked the exact right time. That no news, no new cuts, no text came in while I was driving from the facility back home, because I was out at the Chiefs facility this morning for practice. They wisely and thankfully moved practice to 9:25 this morning. That's pretty rare for the Chiefs to practice that early in the day, but definitely wanted to beat the heat because it is hot here in Kansas City. My temperature says 98 out there right now. That's actually a little bit cooler than it was yesterday. It was excruciating yesterday. And they at least moved practice up yesterday. So I think it was originally scheduled at 1:20, moved it to 10:45. Today they moved it to 9:25. So that I think worked out for a lot of parties. I mean, obviously they got practice over before they have to make cuts. So I think that was an advantage too. So I'm going to jump in here and answer some questions. I see Sharon had a question about still no corner help. No, who might be signed? No doubt. I mean, even though the deadline has passed, we haven't heard about a corner move if the Chiefs made a trade. And remember, too, that the reason why you did see the Chiefs make a couple of these trades is that they're 32nd in the waiver wire claim, which means that if any player that's on waivers, they've got to hope all 31 other teams don't claim that player. So, for both Cam Thomas and Peyton Hendershot, I would expect that there was no way that the Chiefs were getting them on waivers. So, with Dallas, it's a conditional 7th round pick for 2026 for him. For those of you who don't know what that means, conditional means that there's some type of condition on the trade that will kick in about whether the Dallas even gets it. If Peyton Hendershot gets here and never plays a game for the Chiefs, chances are no draft pick goes to Dallas. We don't always get what the conditions are. It's usually number of games played, it's number of snaps played. There can be incentives, as far as catches. I mean, there can be a number of different categories that those conditions can be. So we don't usually get to know those conditions until they're met. And even then, we don't always know whether or not they've been met until the NFL puts out the draft list. Teams are pretty protective of this kind of thing. I mean, the Chiefs, even though the trade round will come out, it's been years since the Chiefs have actually acknowledged to us when a trade's been made about what even round the draft pick was. We have to wait until the NFL transaction report comes out, or if the other team tells us. The Chiefs will just say that they set a draft pick in exchange for a player. So we don't know what the conditions are on that one. But yeah, I mean, the Chiefs needed to make a trade to get those things done. I'm sure they'll be looking at the waiver wire for corners to see if there's anybody out that they're liked. I mean, remember they claimed Darius Rush, from the Colts last year. Got him. That was the rarity of a player sneaking through waivers. So it can happen, but it also means that if it's a guy that you're getting, it's probably not a guy that you're coveting and prioritizing. If that's somebody that you want, you probably need to be making a trade today. So let's see what happens. There could be a veteran out there that the Chiefs like. Getting some corner help was on their to-do list. I was a little surprised about the tight end move, but if that's what they think they need to get better, I mean, you can't begrudge him of that. Brett Veach is going to do what he thinks that they need to do. But they definitely badly wanted a defensive end, and they got that in Cam Thomas. So I'm going to ask Nick a little bit about that, because I know he's watched film on both those players and get a little bit of his opinion on that. Carla, the tight end trade means the Chiefs are keeping 4. Absolutely. I can't see them not keeping 4 at this point. Obviously, Travis isn't going anywhere. Noah Gray and Jared Wiley, I can't imagine them parting ways with either of those two players, putting either one of them on waivers. So, yeah, I think that's absolutely 4 tight ends. And I get it with Hendershot. The advantage of him over Irv Smith. Irv Smith is not a special teams player. He's a little bit undersized for it. He hasn't played a lot since the injury. In the last 4 NFL seasons, he was a pretty prolific special teams player his rookie year. But the last 4 years in the NFL, he's only played 27 special team snaps. Peyton Hendershot's played 400 in the last 2 years. So that's, I think, a little bit of it. But Chiefs also see that this was a guy who looked like a productive receiver before an ankle injury last year as a rookie. So they see some upside as an offensive player, but they also see a guy that can absolutely help them on special teams. So it looks like from that standpoint about what the Chiefs coveted or what they require in a fourth string tight end, Peyton Hendershot probably fits the bill a little bit better than Irv Smith. So I do think that they are keeping 4 tight ends. Can't see otherwise. Steeman kind of had the same question. I mean, I think that really is it. I mean, it's the traits that you got. I mean, I don't think that either one, Irv Smith or Peyton Hendershot, are fantastic blockers, but Hendershot, I think, at least has the requisite size to become a better blocker. He's like 6'4", 260. I mean, he's a huge tight end, especially just bulk wise. So he's a different body. I mean, Irv Smith, on the other hand, is really undersized for a tight end. He's more of a speed and agility pass catching tight end. I think at least, Irv had the mentality needed to be a good blocker, and that he had the want to and the willingness. But Hendershot's definitely got a different skill set. So I think that between that and the special teams is really, indicative about why they made that move. So John S., who is the Arizona Cam Thomas? I'm going to get more from Nick when he comes in, because like I said, I know he's watched quite a few of his snaps and video. But Thomas is a guy with, to me, a high-end motor. I mean, he is definitely someone that doesn't give up on a play. Reminds me in that sense of a lot of Mike Dana. He is a tweener, and that's the other thing that, Brett Veach, for better or worse, one of his weak spots is for tweeners, and sometimes it works, because Jaden Hicks, might end up being the best tweener that he's ever, picked up. And for tweener, for those you don't know, I mean, that's a player who's kind of in between two different positions. Jaden Hicks is kind of in between a linebacker and a safety. He's a little bigger than a normal safety, but not as big as a normal linebacker. Dorian O'Daniel was the same way. He was considered a tweener, and and you got a decent special teams player out of that. Sometimes that's what tweeners become. I mean, they're not big enough to play one position. They're not small enough to play another. You hope that you can turn them into something, but sometimes those guys turn into just special teams aces. I think Hicks is going to be an ace at safety, so that's a different story. And with Thomas, I mean, he showed a lot of promise as a rookie, and that was in a 3-4 defense. And I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, I think he's height-wise, I think he looks the part. I think he's like 6'5", 267. But at that weight, you're a little light, maybe to be a defensive end, but you're a little heavy to be an outside linebacker. And so he played outside linebacker, pass rusher, edge rusher in a 3-4 his rookie year. Last year, changes to a 4-3, which is what the Chiefs play, and it didn't really click, but that can be coaching. It could just have been the transition. There could be injuries involved. I mean, you really don't know, but the Chiefs feel like this is a guy that can fit their system. I think there's a reason to believe that he really does fit what Steve Spagnuolo likes to do and what Joe Cullen likes. So that's going to be the biggest thing to me. If the Cam Thomas thing works, it's because he clicks with this scheme, that he fits in very well. And it's just, he's a better fit for this. Seemed like it was a better fit for Vance Joseph's system his first year in Arizona than he was last year. So, hey, if that's indicative, then I think you've got a player here who can contribute. So we'll see what happens. Harold, thank you. Casey Harold, thank you very much for believing in my multitasking. I'm not doing much right now because I was waiting for Nick to get here before I get completely lost. Jackie loves cut down. It is fun. I mean, like I said, I do feel bad for the guys, because there are guys that have played their last down of football. I mean, a lot of guys will continue to play because a lot will get picked up on practice squads. There will be some guys who still get chances to try out, but there's quite a few, more than you realize, that today was their last day playing football professionally. And it feels bad. So it is kind of a tough day. Haley, do Chiefs personnel seem inclined to put LRZ on practice squad if he makes waivers, or is the feeling that he'll get picked up by another club as a specialist? It's a really good question, Haley, because I mean, that's the risk and the gamble that the Chiefs are making. They are hoping that he absolutely clears waivers and he can come back to on the practice squad. They would love to continue to develop him for another year. They true do. They think he can be a different player a year from now in so many different ways. Not only, I mean, right now, I would. The only thing as a coach that I would feel comfortable with with Louis Rees-Zammit would be putting him out as a kick return specialist. I'm not even. I mean, I wouldn't even be punt return because I haven't even seen him do that yet, and that can be pretty complicated. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts to that. That if you haven't done it yet, you don't know how guys are going to perform. Sky Moore, a great example. I mean, Sky Moore has all the tools that you would think, the traits that you would say, hey, this kid can be a punt returner. It didn't work out. But, you know, Rees-Zammit has shown, I think, that being a kick returner, pretty good. Can he be better? Yeah, because I think that with a year of seasoning and experience, he'll learn to make reads and cuts and adjustments and, you know, figure out the scheme of a return better. Right now, I mean, I think he's just doing everything on instinct, and his instincts with kick returns is pretty good, but there's still a lot to learn when it comes to the rest of the game. Whether his future is as a running back or a wide receiver, you know, the Chiefs felt it was easiest to kind of ease him in as a running back this year. They haven't closed the door on the possibility that wide receiver is his better position, and they feel like that there is with a year of seasoning that he's going to be a completely different player next year. The question is going to be, yeah, does another team claim LRZ? And I would think that another team wouldn't, because they've seen the film, that they've seen the scouting, that they know, hey, wait a minute, you know what, this kid has got a lot of athleticism, but he's not ready at this level yet, that he needs more work, and that, you know, maybe putting him on a 53 is going to expose him a little bit. It's going to expose your team. I've joked a little bit about how if I'm a 2-15 football team, maybe I do claim Louis Rees-Zammit, because he might help me go 1-16 and improve my draft prospects, and then I can help develop him and make him a player for the future. But I mean, I'm not sure that somebody is going to do that. If he clears waivers, I think the Chiefs would have him back on the practice squad in a heartbeat, because they would absolutely love to see where his future goes from here. I think he would be a really interesting scout team player, because chasing him on the practice field, I think would help them get better and get prepared for some different teams around the league. That would immensely help him, just watching more film, watching other players around the league, learning what other players do. I think he could pick up a lot on an NFL scout team for a year. And if I'm Louis Rees-Zammit, I don't know why I would leave Kansas City. I mean, you've got Patrick Mahomes, you've got Travis Kelce, you've got so much. This is the Chiefs are not just a national brand; they're an international brand. So it certainly would help you back home in Europe. I mean, with the rugby audience, there's a lot of reasons on the field and off the field that I think that staying with the Chiefs would be the right move for him. So we'll see what happens. Yes, Haley, I feel that the Chiefs, my impression are that if he clears waivers, they would love to have him back on the practice squad. We are going to be joined by Nick in a moment, because I know he is in the green room. And so I'll just wait to get the heads up from him. I've been without losing my live stream screen again, so I get lost. Let me move it over here so I can at least see if there's been any other breaking news that I have missed out on. Any cuts? Doesn't look like we've learned anything else. I should add in my count that I did earlier, as far as how many spots the Chiefs need to clear, I hadn't included, but do want to mention Charles Omenihu and B.J. Thompson's roster spots, because both those guys, between Charles being on the physically unable to perform list and Thompson being on the non-football injury list, both those guys are just going to naturally move to the in-season version of those lists, which means that now they go from being counted on the 90-player roster to no longer being counted on the 53. So that's 2 more roster spots that the Chiefs will have. So let's see. Oh, Nick is free. So
hi there, Matt Derrick.
party. How are you doing? How are you
Something
doing?
going on today? Is there anything happening today?
Whether it's your favorite day of the year or your least favorite day of the year, as I know for some people in the NFL, it's roster cutdown day, Nick.
Yeah, I think you said it perfectly earlier. I mean, there's a lot of people that livelihoods are on the line today, and something less than ideal. I know it's something that front offices and coaching staffs aren't thrilled to have to deal with because they've coached those guys, they watch those guys grow, they've invested in them, and they watch those players and their families invest in the organization, and for some of them invest decades worth of time and effort to get to this moment. So, that's the that's the human part that you have to remember sometimes. I mean, I know some people see it as new content each time it comes out, or but did you get this right or did you get that wrong in your prediction or that type of stuff and everything? But at the end of the day, it still is the real world, and I just know if I was in their shoes and it related to TV and people are checking to see if the if I made the sports producer roster or not, and that would be something I would be steering clear of on social media personally.
Yep, there you go. I'm with you. I'm going to go through a couple of questions just quickly to catch up on some things. And there's a couple of things I want to ask you specifically about, Nick. But
Yep.
Amanda, no, we haven't gotten the 53 from the Chiefs yet. We're checking and waiting on that. I'm expecting it to be probably another 20 minutes. It can be longer than that, but that's when the Chiefs usually get theirs out. We might even see the NFL might get it out faster. So we will see. Cody, are all the trades actually done and just waiting for the team to be announced? Yeah, I mean, usually these trades do go ahead and get processed now. Anything that might happen with as far as a physical or a clearance or anything like that could obviously negate the trade later. But typically these trades do get processed on today simply because of the 3 p.m. deadline. So it's not like usually these trades. It's you have to process them by 3:00 because Peyton Hendershot, for instance, can't be on the Dallas roster after 3:00 if they want to keep somebody else. So, these trades all get processed. We're just, they're official when the NFL says they're official, regardless of when the team puts them out and everything. But these obviously get processed today, and if there is a issue later, with a trade, player injury, physical doesn't get passed, then you deal with the complications later. But Don, remind me when players can be getting claimed off waivers and when does it end? Very good question. The claiming process begins as soon as the NFL puts out their transaction report this afternoon, which is typically within the next hour. They'll put that out. All the teams will get it, and then teams can start putting in their claims. They have until 11 a.m. tomorrow to put in their claims. So once the 11 a.m. tomorrow passes, it's all done. Teams can't, claim players anymore. NFL processes that usually within the hour, and then they will send out another list to say, okay, all of these players have been claimed. But that's also when the practice squad window opens. So yes, between 3:00 Central Time today and 11 a.m. tomorrow morning is when teams can claim players. Nick, I wanted to ask you this because I know that you have watched both of these guys on film and you've posted some comments on Twitter and everything like that with your breakdowns. But I want to go over the trades real quick. Where first for Cam Thomas, and then we can come around to Peyton Hendershot. What's your overall impressions of Thomas? Because you and I both talked about this. Defensive end was a position of need, that this team needed some depth, and Thomas looks like an interesting prospect.
Yeah, I mean, so what I think Cameron Thomas is going to provide for them is I think he's a rotational defensive end. I'm assuming he's going to put his hand in the dirt because that's what most of the guys do that are in the Chiefs scheme. I mean, some occasionally are stand-up rushers. But for somebody like Cameron Thomas, he's going to give you strength immediately. So I mean, he gives you power. So similar to Mike Dana in that regard, he's going to give you that aspect of it. He does have some quick twitch to him whenever he does a TE stunt. He's able to do that and shoot through a gap, at least one gap over. I haven't seen 2 or 3 gaps over where he's at in terms of the NFL right now. He's got a lot of heart, a lot of hustle, and so he's a guy that is going to give you maximum effort. He's not. People kept trying to compare him to George Karlaftis on my Twitter account yesterday. That he's not that athletically. He's not going to be, and if he was, the Cardinals wouldn't be, moving on from him. That's just the reality on that one. It wouldn't be deciding if they wanted to cut him or not. So for somebody like him, he's high effort on special teams. He was willing to block if he was on punt return, and I know I saw him on punt return, and then I saw him on field goal block, and he almost had to block on one of the plays. But overall, like I said, I put one of the plays out where it just showed his high effort to where he was trying to set the edge. Then he saw the running back bounce outside, tried to make the tackle, but he'd been worn out as he'd been on a 9-10 play drive at that point. But he still chased down the line of scrimmage and helped make the TD saving tackle. I mean, the quarterback scored a play later, but if you're trying to sum him up with a game on, that was in a preseason game with a job on the line, he was making a high effort play like that. So if you're in a much bigger moment, then if you see that, you're expecting to see that level of hustle and that level of drive. So in that regard, I think that's what the Chiefs were trading for, is a rotational defensive end that's got some power to him. They could rotate in with Dan if need to, be reliable in setting the edge in the run, be able to be used on special teams, and continue to have Joe Cullen work with him, because those high effort guys like him that have that type of strength, they're guys that Joe Cullen really enjoys working with.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing, there seems like a ton of upside. The only, I don't even want to call it a red flag, but concern that I had about Thomas is that he does seem size wise a little bit of a tweener, between an outside linebacker and a defensive end. And his best season in Arizona was in the 3-4 under Vance Joseph, and he's wasn't as productive last year in a 4-3 under a different coordinator. Any concerns for you there, or do you feel like that, hey, wait a minute, this is just a guy that should fit Steve Spagnuolo's and Joe Cullen's scheme maybe better than some other guys might?
At the end of the day, the Chiefs traded for him, so they clearly think he is a fit in whatever way they're going to use him. Otherwise, they wouldn't trade a 7th-round pick for him. So that's the way I have to look at that.
There you go.
I mean, at the end of the day, the Brett Veach made the move, and that's he's got a lot of Super Bowls to back him up at this point.
Yeah, I mean, that standpoint, it's hard to argue with Brett Veach.
And if you do, he could have a handful of Super Bowl rings to be like, I'm sorry, what'd you say again?
I know you haven't had as much time yet because the Peyton Hendershot trade was less than an hour ago. But
don't worry, people ask within 5 seconds. What are your thoughts on?
Well, sure. I mean, and so I at least gave you more than 5 seconds, Nick. But what are your thoughts?
I don't have enough yet, because he had 20 snaps in the preseason. In the final game, he didn't play in the first 2 games, and he had 4 special teams plays. So, I mean, from an athletic perspective, he's got some athletic ability, and from the 15 plays I was able to watch so far, he can competently run block. I'm going to go back further into last year at some point, but it won't be while I'm on here. Looking at what he did in the past and the snaps he had. I know he's got a bunch of special teams snaps, as Sam McDowell put out there. I think he said over 400 snaps at that point. So, I mean, that obviously is going to be primary thing that they're going to expect out of him early, while he has to probably spend most of the year attempting to learn this offense to be a part of it, other than a handful of packages.
Yeah, it will be interesting. And I mean, Chiefs 12 has a good question here, which is Hendershot taking CJ Hansen's spot? I mean, that's the ultimate decision that you make sometimes, is, whether it's a 4th tight end, and this roster in particular, I think that the most difficult decisions for Brett Veach and his staff was 4th tight end, 4th running back, 10th offensive lineman. I mean, don't know for sure. I mean, I haven't heard the official word. I don't believe on CJ Hansen's situation, but after the Chiefs, waived and Derrick Prince, looked like they're going with 3 running backs. Looked like they were going with 3 tight ends for a moment. It looks like obviously they could go with 6 wide receivers and keep both Hendershot and Hansen, but that might have been the ultimate decision, Nick. I mean, if you're able to get a 4th tight end, that you might be taking it away from the offensive line and going with 9 instead of 10. And those are the decisions that Brett Veach absolutely gets paid the big bucks to make, right?
I mean, right now, we still don't know a lot of the situations of where the roster is or isn't at yet, because unless something's happened by my count at this point, you've got 2 quarterbacks, 5 running backs, 10 wide receivers, 4 tight ends. And after this trade, you technically would have 5. But that doesn't count until he reports tomorrow and passes his physical. Then you have 12 offensive linemen, 13 defensive linemen that we're aware of at this point. 7 linebackers. So you got 7 corners, 8 safeties, and 3 specialists. And that doesn't even include a Minihue and BJ Thompson, who are on top of that. So still a lot of question marks. So to say, does this person take this person's spot right now? No idea. Like, I mean, you know, it's not a verse versus verse. It's just a number spot right now. Until we see the full list, we can't estimate who are the last 5 on the roster, who are the last 6 on the roster, who's taking what spot. The only spot I can tell you is Juju Smith-Schuster took somebody below him wide receiver wise. That was either going to be the 6th or 7th receiver.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a pretty 2+2 if both McCole Hardman and Sky Moore make the 53. I think you can pretty much put 2 and 2 together and say Juju Smith-Schuster took Justin Ross's spot. But you know what? The thought process behind the scenes could have been completely different. Maybe they were going to say, "Oh, you know what? We would have kept an Eric Prince, but we were able to get Juju Smith-Schuster." Maybe they were going to, waive Justin Ross all the time. We don't know. We don't know what goes behind the scenes and some of the thought process. KSHB also has a question about, looks like Keith Taylor is the 5th cornerback. I mean, based on what I have seen at this point, yeah. I can't argue in any other way. Especially with the moves that the Chiefs made on Monday, Kelvin Joseph, I think was the other interesting possibility in that situation. And when they waived Kelvin, I mean, I think that was pretty good indication for Keith Taylor. But based on evidence that I've seen at this point, I mean, unless the Chiefs end up looking outside the organization, unless there's somebody that they bring on waivers or there's a last second move, I think that Keith Taylor is your 5th cornerback right now. And with them keeping Chris Roland Wallace, it certainly looks like that 5 and 5 is probably what they're going to keep there. I mean, they could surprise me and keep 11 defensive backs, but with keeping 5 safeties, especially when you've got a couple of safeties like Roland Wallace and Shamari Connor that can play a little corner, play some slot for you. In Connor's case, maybe certainly be your slot corner. You can get away with 5 corners, Nick.
Yeah. I mean, well, like I said, until the list is official and I can see it, analyze it, there's a whole bunch of different hypotheticals we can go through for the next 2 hours. But I mean, the Broncos supposedly just released Samaje Perine and Tim Patrick. So I'm kind of curious with those. I believe they're both vested veterans at this point, so they're free to sign wherever. I know Samaje Perine definitely is after 8 years. Tim Patrick, I think, was as well. So what's funny about that is you saw that put out yesterday that there was this huge market. A lot of suitors calling about Tim Patrick and potentially Samaje Perine, and they ended up releasing both of them, which tells you that there wasn't a market at all, which is why it got leaked to begin with. So remember, people, we're all sheeple to the some of the NFL teams that like to send to the national guys, have them leak it out there, and try to create a trade market, try to create hype for it.
Yes. Why call or text 31 other GMs when you can just leak it to a reporter and contact them all at the same time to let them know that you got a couple of guys who are available?
Exactly.
Without showing the weakness of, saying, "Hey, I got these 2 guys who are available. Will you take one of my hands, please, please, please?" Because, that doesn't usually work in business when you're trying to make a deal. So,
Matt, you know what I'm going to have.
Oh no, is this the coffee?
Yeah, man. I'm very
okay.
I'm a big fan of it.
We are going to have some excitement now because I've seen the evidence of Nick on the coffee drink. And
but you've seen it. You've seen it at training camp practices. This is 3:40 in the afternoon, so it's going to take a little while to amp up because you normally see it like after practice when you're like, "Why are you still hyper right now?" It's like 1 in the afternoon.
Adam wants to know who would be a surprise cut, and I don't know. I mean, at this point, Nick, I mean, I'm not sure at least for me, and maybe I'm just too close to it. I mean, I'm not sure that there would be a ton of surprise cuts that I could think of at this point. Anybody jump out to you? I mean,
no, I mean, that's the thing. When people ask us that, like, here's the thing you got to remember. Like, Matt and I and other other beat writers and other media members who are routinely at the practices, you've kind of seen it over time. So I mean, if you just dropped us in today to be like, hey, what do you think of the Chiefs things? You'd be like, wow, they cut Justin Ross and Kadarius Toney. Wow. But when we get to see every preseason game, you get to see most training camp practices, you get to see OTAs, you get to see minicamp, and you just see how they're aligned and who's with the ones, who's with the twos, who's with the threes. Like, this has already kind of been when it gets to our roster predictions the final time around, we're just deciding on like 4 or 5 guys. Are they going to be over this person or that person? And are they keeping this number at this position or that number at that position? That's where it's at, because we've seen, if you add it up over time, it's 20 plus opportunities for us to evaluate from what we see, or be able to get information from what we see and be able to interpret that and turn that into the roster predictions you see from all the Chiefs media members and some fans and some blogs and my Aunt Tilly that I don't have, so I just made that up. I don't have an Aunt Tilly.
And that's exactly right. I mean, and that's why, to me, Chris Roland Wallace making this team wasn't a surprise, because I've been at every practice since the beginning of training camp. I mean, I've seen the rise. I mean, I saw it. So, I knew at this point. I mean, yesterday when I put up my last roster projection, I'm like, okay, based on the snaps, based on what I'm seeing on the field, based on special teams, all these factors, it's like Chris Roland Wallace is ahead of Deion Bush. So there's your 5 and your 6 safeties. Mm-hmm. And then it becomes a question: do you keep a 5th safety or a 6th corner? And I could not. And in that case, when you're talking about, in this particular case, especially your best 25 on defense and your best 25 on offense. I mean, it might be your best 26 and 24. Your mileage may vary.
Yeah, there it is.
Your first one of the day.
But will it be the last one? Because I don't want it to be the last.
I don't want to overuse it. See, so I need to pump the brakes.
Overuse it if it's your trademark.
Kind of pump the brakes a little bit. But so which one's if I'm putting together the best 25 defensive players, is that Chris Roland Wallace or is it a 6th corner? I could not rate a corner above Chris Roland Wallace. So if I'm putting together the best 25 players, he's on it. So that was why he was on my 53 in my last one. That's, I mean, once again, different people might make different valuations, but that's why, Brett Veach has a huge staff. They all give input. They get the inputs from the coaches. I mean, and you weigh it all together. I am absolutely certain that there are plenty of decisions that this team has made in the last 24 hours that are not 100% unanimous. I'm sure there were plenty that were split about what they should do. There were probably, just like Dave Toub, there was probably at least one person, if not more, pounding the table for Nico Rubio to make the 53. There were probably other players that had somebody pounding the table saying, this guy needs to make the 53. But, it's, you take all that information, you're Brett Veach and you're Andy Reid, and you make the final decision. And at least that's, I mean, but just watching what happens, I mean, you can see it all develop. Nothing's a surprise. So when you're talking about adding, surprise, I mean, what would be a surprise cut for me? I mean, a surprise cut to me at this point would be something like, hey, if the addition of Cam Thomas means that the Chiefs, were to cut Malik Herring, I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that's, I don't think they're going to just keep 4 defensive ends now. I mean, I think they're going to keep 5, but that would be a surprise to me. But it might not be a surprise to others. It's all about perspective, I guess. I know way too early, Nick, but I'm going to ask you anyway, because Pie Desert, which is a great name, by the way, does Nick like the trades we've made? His opinion is the only one that matters.
It's not the only one that matters.
Mine does not matter. I come for the good spirits and optimism you bring to the season. I guess that's a great thing, Nick. I will say this, that we're covering a Super Bowl 2-time defending champion, because they're really, really good. And there's not a reason for us to be, tearing them apart and ripping them, because generally they're good and they make good decisions. People might not like us enough as much as if this was a 2-15 football team that we just absolutely had to tear apart week in and week out.
Well, Matt, I've lived those years. So
I know you did.
Been there, done that.
I guess this is like job security here for me, that I would like to point out that I have covered the AFC West champions every single year of my beat writing career.
Yeah. I've been a part of some years where they were not that. Super Bowl was a distant distant dream that you were going to accomplish on Madden, but you were not going to accomplish in real life. So I remember that. I remember that time. I remember that era. Remember it well. Remember going in the locker room all the time and asking questions in the locker room and having them say one of the 5 key points that Pioli wanted them to say. And that was that. Had to get back to the drawing board. Got to watch tape. Got to look at the film, even though it'd been 2 days since the game.
Oh, that's not good if it's 2 days and you haven't watched the film.
Well, but they had their talking points that they were supposed to say to media members if they, and then you slowly saw as players got more and more annoyed with it and were willing to talk at their lockers. And I remember that day with Steve Bresden, and never saw Steve Bresden again after that day. But tomato. That was a fun day. I'll tell that story somewhere down the road. It was a real fun day. not about having just like him heck, I'll tell it now. Just him processing. Like people wanted to talk to him. He hadn't been playing a lot. He'd been signing free. Just he was coming out of a lockout at that time. Where guys signed like right before training camp and like they were up there in Bresden. It was like Bresden's year on that. Todd Haley's still the head coach at the time, and we came to Bresden's locker. And for you, Matt, it's over there by where Bucker's locker is. When we're inside there and everything, so it's just right in the door there. Want to talk to Steve, see hey, what's going on? Like you're not getting a lot of playing time. You want to chat? And then he's like, probably better not. And then he walked out. And apparently he circled back around, came in the front door. He's like, yeah, here, I'll do that interview. He did the interview for everybody. And he was very honest and blunt. And it's the last time I saw Steve Bresden. So it was a different regime ago. Things have changed around there. That's why the Chiefs have the success they do, is because the regime changed for significantly better. Scout a heck of a lot better. You may be frustrated with some of the picks that the Chiefs make over the years, some of the things Veach may do. But I am telling you, it is night and day better the way that organizations run since Andy Reid got there, and then when John Dorsey was there, and then Brett Veach took over. Like I'm telling you, like I've watched it through three different general managers, or 4 at this point, and multiple head coaches, and just the motto they have, what they're trying to sell, how they go about approaching it, how they sell it, how they talk in press conferences and everything. The best thing this franchise ever did was get Andy Reid. Like I know that's obvious to say now, but I'm just telling you, like the stability he brought, what Clark dreamed of having, a Patriots Steelers type of franchise that had stability and consistent winner and could make the playoffs on a regular basis. That's Andy Reid brought that all here, and all the people that come along with Andy Reid, like that believe in him, that trust in him, and are by his side. And there's a lot of smart people among that group. And I'm just telling you, like, I mean, to kind of see where it was to where it's at it's just you appreciate it while it's happening, because that's not normal with every NFL franchise, and that's not regular with every NFL franchise. So right now has been, since Andy Reid got here, has been the golden era of Chiefs football, outside of whenever Hank Stram had his era. But more so now, because you have social media involved that impacts stuff. You have constant analysis and evaluation that they didn't necessarily have back in that era. So there's a lot more challenges that NFL teams face. And so for the Chiefs to accomplish what they have is just a whole different ball game, because you and I wouldn't be having this live stream in the 60s. Internet wasn't even invented yet. Cell phones weren't invented.
Not many people cared about football in the 60s.
Well, there's that hurdle too.
It was a distant, I don't even know where it was. It was certainly distant behind baseball. It might have been behind basketball. Might have even been behind hockey in some markets. Certainly some markets. um, Cheeto Freak's dad. Can the Chiefs or
So apparently they like Cheetos.
I love some of the YouTube names. You're all great. Can the Chiefs or another team sign LRZ as their international player and not count against the 53? And Cheeto, you're touching a raw nerve with me because
Uh-oh.
as I
Uh-oh.
was pointing out earlier today at Chiefs practice because we were discussing this very topic. There's some rules that the NFL has that are just in somebody's head that aren't written down anywhere, and one of them is about the international player exemption. What I can tell you is, right now is that the Chiefs use their international roster exemption during the offseason on Chu Godric. If Chu is placed on waivers, then the exemption is lifted, so they no longer have an exemption. My understanding is that they can then sign a player to the practice squad with an international exemption. It doesn't have to be Chu, it could be LRZ, but once it's applied, there's no changing it. That whomever gets applied during the regular season is the international player, and that means that that player can't be signed to any team's 53 during the regular season, including your own team. They can't be poached by another franchise, even to their 53-man roster. I mean, that player is on your practice squad for the season. You can use a practice squad elevation on them, so you can do that, but it basically locks them into your team for the next year, and you can't put them permanently on the 53 that season. I think both those players would be candidates essentially for that roster exemption. But it's not entirely clear that you can sign Chu Godric, place him on the practice squad, and not have him be your exempt player. I mean, that's my understanding, is that you could sign them both and you could have LRZ be the exemption, but I have yet to see a rule written down anywhere, and I have asked multiple people with the Chiefs and the NFL, and nobody seems to know exactly what the answer is. So I wish I could give you a more clear example of this, but that's what I can tell you, is that if Chu Godric is placed on waivers, which obviously I would expect that he would be, then that exemption is lifted. They can then sign an international pathway player to the practice squad that has an exemption.
You
Your
did
mileage
great
may
there,
vary.
Matt.
Your mileage may vary. I'll whip it out one more time.
Number two, number two. I'm
So
gonna do that every time. Every time we do it, I'm gonna sing this song from Billy
we
Madison.
we are close to when I would expect that the Chiefs might, as early as possible, release their 53. I know some other teams have already released their 53. Chiefs are usually behind on that, and I will give an explanation, as at least it's been told to me that one of the reasons why that the Chiefs do drag their heels a little bit in releasing it is that Andy Reid likes to meet personally with every single player before they announce the 53. Whether it's to congratulate them on making the roster, or tell them their exit interview, hey, want to join the practice squad, good luck, whatever it may be, that he does like to talk to every player that he can. He likes to do that before they put it out, which is why sometimes the NFL even puts out the transaction list before the Chiefs do put out their 53. So that there is at least a logic behind the Chiefs in this case for maybe being slow. So I'll offer that as just what it is.
That is fantastic insight, Matt. That's what I come here for. This is why I tune in. It's for that, Matt, right there.
Nick, do you think Ethan Driscoll makes the roster?
I'm not sure until the I don't know. I mean, I think he's got talent. I think he belongs on the practice squad. As I've said on many a shows we've done over the past month, like he could be a swing tackle down the road here, like a good backup swing tackle in a year. He's got the athletic ability. He can pull in the space. He's got a good punch. He can bend properly for a guy his size. He's got great size. I like his arm length. All that combined, like I like what I saw on tape from him, and I think there's a lot of long-term potential there. And a year strength training, a year on the practice squad, a year with Andy Heck, and building that all up, all that combined, like I think like he could push for at minimum a backup swing tackle job next year.
Yeah, he certainly seems like a guy that would just benefit from a year in an NFL strength training program and a year of just honing his technique. because you're right. I mean, it seems like there's a lot to like there, and there's no doubt. I mean, he climbed up the depth chart. I mean, I don't think that he has surpassed Lucas Niang on the depth chart. I think that they still have more, more trust there. If they had to go that direction, we'll find out relatively soon. But I would think he would be an ideal candidate for the practice squad. So, I mean, Patrick, we're still waiting. I was hoping by this point, Patrick, we know for sure if the Chiefs were keeping 7 receivers, and everything that we've seen so far, though, as far as the moves that have been made so far today, I think are consistent with the Chiefs keeping 7. It could be 6, but based on what I have seen at practice over the last few weeks and building up to all of this, I mean, Sky Moore's on the 53. I mean, I just have zero doubt about that. If we go back to the earlier question, it says, would there be a surprise cut? If Sky Moore is cut, I will be stunned. I could not, in the immortal words of, I believe it was Clark Griswold, if I woke up tomorrow morning with my face sewn to the carpet, Nick, I would not be more surprised than I would be if Sky Moore was cut by this team. But McCole, I mean, not 100%. I could see McCole getting cut and maybe ending up on the practice squad. Maybe they keep 6, but I think it's more and more looking like there's going to be 7.
Well, Matt, you know my stance on it.
We'll see.
All right, guys. Like, I mean, I'll be happy to analyze it after I have all the numbers, but until we get all the facts, I like to wait in life.
And yeah, Tommy, we are 57 minutes past the final buzzer. So yeah, all the moves have been made. We're just waiting to find out what. I know, Pete, can we get updates instead of rehashing old information? We're just trying to get new information. Waiting for it to come out. I might skip ahead to see if there's any more recent questions that everybody's got and everything. That doesn't mean I'm going to ignore your question. We're going to probably circle back to it. I mean, Jackie, I can't speak for Nick. I'm hoping to stay on until the final 53 is announced. I mean, Nick is his day off, and he does have a life, so I can't commit, him.
But if you look at the comment section, I'm supposed to be happy-go-lucky all the time for all 2.5, 3 hours that I'm on here, and I'm not supposed to. Here's what I'm gonna say, and this is me going on a little bit of a rant here. Some people, not all, some people want me to entertain them, and they don't like if I don't entertain them a certain way when I'm on here doing the Q&A and everything. And then people want you to have new information. Well, to get new information has to be me looking at my phone or me looking at email and stuff. So then some people interpret that as me being disinterested in what people are saying when I'm trying to look and analyze stuff so that I can give them the analysis in real time when I can. So it's heck if you do, heck if you don't type of situation. A very it doesn't matter. You're gonna get critics no matter what you do.
I told everyone earlier, Nick, that I was going to let everybody in on how the sausage is made today, because I'm trying to multitask and all these things, and I probably won't do it well. So yes, if you want to know, I have. Well, of course, it's me. So I have 2 browser windows open with multiple tabs in each, but I have my main one that I've now placed the stream in, so I won't lose it. But I have the Chiefs website, so I can keep seeing if they've posted. I have my email open, so I can see if I've received the roster via the email. I obviously have several social media platforms open, so I can see if there's been any updates or any rosters been posted. I have the NFL's transaction site up, so I can check and see if they've posted their transactions. And I have my phone at angle that I did turn off the notifications on it, so it's not beeping, but at least the screen will come on if I get a text or a notification or anything. So if you just see the top of my head every once in a while, that's because my phone has done something. And
here's the problem, since I have my email open in case we get the press release right now, is I'm just gonna say it. KSHB 41 Sports Director Mick Schaefer is sending me stuff for later this week, so I'm seeing work things that I'm gonna be dealing with over the next couple of days right now. So I'm already thinking of those in my head. So this is what happens whenever I have tabs open and I try to keep live updates of the world. We got a great interview coming up this week that I just saw on my email.
So we'll see. There you go. Not draft related, but I do have a thought to add here, or at least a comment to add here. From KC Chiefs 12, Belichick was on McAfee and said he expects the kickoff rule to be adjusted and the kick down in the end zone will be moved from the 30 to the 35. Thoughts? I mean, I think it's absolutely amazing. I mean, the NFL has actually been talking about making some changes to this rule in season, which I think would absolutely be insane. But it certainly looks like there's a possibility of that. Dave Tobe touched on this because he was apparently in favor of, and at one point in the rule process, it was going to be the 35, and then the teams did not want it to be as punitive, so the coaches. Outside of the special teams coordinators wanted it pushed back to the 30. And there is a concern that it's just not going to be punitive enough that teams, if there's just too much volatility in the kickoff outcomes, if they just can't guarantee, to a certain degree what their outcomes are, that they're going to back off being too aggressive on the kickoffs. And they may just end up booting it out of the end zone for the touchback and give it team at a 30 and dealing with that. And that's not what the NFL or anybody ever intended. So if they want this rule to work, they might have to push touchbacks through the kick through the end zone or down in the end zone out to the 35, because it's not necessarily that punitive. So what I can't say guaranteed will not happen, but I think would be absolutely as insane is if the NFL changes it now or at any point in the 2024 season. And it sounds like there's a possibility that could happen. I think that would just be insane, Nick. But I don't know if it would be a bad change. I just think it would be insane that after you've already prepped this rule in a way and then you change it at the last minute, or you've had games already decided and then change the rule at like week 6. I mean, I just think that would be absolutely crazy beyond belief.
Well, I mean, I don't know if you saw about the first down marker. Did you see that?
I have not seen this. No.
Apparently they're scrapping that because it's not ready. They tried it in a couple of games and it was ineffective. So I guess the report was today that they're not using the first down.
By all means, yes.
And then now they're going to go back to the chain gang. So you remember the referees when they had the meeting with us up in St. Joe, and they were all happy that they weren't going to have to deal with the chain gang, and apparently now it's going to be coming back because that technology didn't work out for it. Apparently, they didn't like how inefficient and ineffective it was. According to the report, we will see in the weeks and months ahead what they do as the shield turns.
I did not know this until earlier this week, that because it was I think it was like the Quirky Research account. I can't remember who it was, but shared the story from back like 1963 or whatever it was, that the AFL at one point gave their officials their innovation for measuring for first downs was that they had a tape measure, Nick.
Mm-hmm.
They had a 10-yard tape measure. They didn't have a chain gang. The official just whipped out a 10-yard tape measure. They marked where the first down was, and then they would measure by the tape measure. I would prefer that to the chain gang, but
you know what, Matt? I'm all for it. Whatever.
Gosh, you could even get a tape measure sponsor. We know how much they love their sponsorships.
I want you to know, coffee's kicking in. I can already feel it.
All right, then. Let's see if we can get a question. Get
some questions. I'm amped up now, okay?
I'm going to be a little shameless here because Casey Harrell is, like 6,000 watching, smashing like the button.
6,000, holy heck.
I mean, I can say we have over 6,000 watching on our various platforms. So
are you really? Seriously?
Yes.
6,000?
Yes.
I don't know. I don't get the number. I'm just going to trust you on this.
I can tell you that. Do we have over 6,000 watching?
Every one of you ask questions because I want you to know my coffee that I had is kicking in already.
Those of you on Twitter and Facebook and everything truly appreciate you. So hopefully we're not boring you too much to tears
right now. Let's if I got some coffee in me, let's take advantage of it.
Let's take advantage of it.
Because I'm going to want to take a nap in a couple hours now. I already know.
Jackie wants you to call Mr. Veach and get the final 53 already.
I doubt that's going to happen. I get a feeling he's probably super busy. But if he is watching right now, which I doubt it, but if he is, or if somebody wondering how Drive is, you got Matt's number, you got my number. Feel free to join the show if you want. We'll be here for it.
And Terry, should the Chiefs go get P. Ryan from the Donkeys? I think we know how he feels about the Broncos.
Clearly. I'm not against it. I'm not against him being like kind of. I want to watch a little bit more coaches film on him, but like that's a veteran running back that could kind of be used on third down. I want to see what he still has left in the screen game and kind of out of the flats. He's a physical runner, which would fit in really well with Pacheco and Steele's style. So it's just a matter of what they have in the final running back room, because before, I still don't know what's going on with Bailey or Ingram, since we haven't technically heard their names either way. Like, Matt, should I send this to you? I've got a list right now that I did a couple hours ago just so I could keep tabs each time, and I would delete and add and do whatever.
Oh, absolutely.
And, okay, I'm going to email it to you right now. And if we want to put it up there, we can put it up there, or whatever you want to do. Whatever feels right in your heart, Matt, you do
Fire away.
Well, I'm going to send you an email. That's what I'm going to do. Ta-da, right there. I just take Command V. We're going to make magic happen right here, right now, people. And you might be able to get to see it.
Although I did not see this earlier. I do see I just saw a tweet from Neil Farrell from 2 hours ago.
I retweeted it a while ago. He did the prayers thing, and so he could be. He's happy. Could be. It's not a good day for him. I don't know.
It's a lot of things that could be. So,
hey, I just got an Emmy email. Well, what happens, guys? I'm going to tell you what's going on in my world.
Did you win, or have you?
No, they're reminding us that we can still judge for things. I've already judged for multiple things, because if you judge a certain amount, they give you a discount on your fee. So I've already done that.
Excellent deal.
Ooh, they got some sports programs, sports stories. Okay, maybe. I like to look at different markets to see what they're doing. It's just interesting to see if there's anything they're doing differently, or for all building the wheel the same way. But yeah, I think Matt. Well, let's get your thoughts on P. Ryan. Yes or no? Would you go?
I would. I mean, I think that's a player that brings you something that I'm not sure that you have, especially as a pass catcher, but absolutely some valuable depth there. And I mean, potential. The one thing I feel like that this offense is still missing in the backfield is big playability. Maybe Carson Steele is going to bring that. But when was the last time that this, and not a knock against Isaiah Pacheco, but when was the last time that this offense had a big play capable back in the backfield? I don't feel like it's had one since Damian Williams.
Yes, you're right. Okay, 358 there. If you will go to 406, Mr. Perez will answer his.
Will you be in NOLA?
Yes, that one.
Yep. We'll get to you, Sharon. But will you be in NOLA?
Matt, will you be in New Orleans if the Chiefs hypothetically get to the Super Bowl?
If they hypothetically reach the Super Bowl, I will certainly be there.
So, fun fact about me: when you're a sports producer, you get to stay in studio in Kansas City. That's what you're doing. You're making TV magic from the building, because you're not going to be making TV magic on location. And here's another crazy fact about me that most of you won't know, but you're going to get to learn right now. I've only been to 5 states in my life, 5 of them. So there are 45 still left on my journey at some point, if I'm brave enough to venture out past it. So the running joke Mick Schaefer, KSHB 41 sports director, has with me, and some other people I used to work with at Metro Sports, among the likes of Lee Vlasic, Dave Stewart, and so on. I've been to Waterloo, Iowa.
I was gonna say, should I guess at what 5 states you've been in? Because
Matt? Yes.
I mean, I was gonna say Iowa for sure.
Comment section 2, go for it while we continue to stall until the press release comes.
Because I am pretty fascinated in this.
Go for it. So you already know
Iowa, Missouri, and Kansas.
Nailed it. You got 2 left.
My first 3 off the box.
2 off the board.
You had to have been to Nebraska. What? You never got dragged to Lincoln for Metro Sports? And
nope.
I'm standing here beside myself. That's a stunner to me. I've been eliminated, but no, I mean, I thought that was low hanging fruit. I mean, next would have been Oklahoma.
Nope, never been there.
Wow.
You got 2 left. 2 states left.
I know, but I mean, and I feel like now I'm going to get surprised, because it's like you flew to Florida or something, and that's one of them. You flew somewhere.
No, I've never been on a plane before. I've never flown in my life.
Okay. Well, then that narrows it down because
It's all drive, all drive in a vehicle mobile.
you seem like someone who's driven to Minneapolis.
No, Matt.
What? Okay, then I'm running out of contiguous states here. We're just going to go basic. Illinois.
There you go. You're on the right path. You got one left.
Okay. Oh, Indiana.
What? I'm sorry. Where?
Indiana.
There you go.
Yes. Because you have either been to the combine or you got stuck in a snowstorm in
I
Indianapolis.
did not get stuck in storm. Kanitra and I. So I went to the Chiefs Colts playoff game. I was on the sidelines during it, and if you look in the background, you can see me. You don't see my sadness at the moment, but I'm shooting right when Andrew Luck
Yes.
catches the ball pops out. Andrew Luck gets it, jumps over, in for the touchdown, and on NFL films in the shot right there, you see me in the background right there, shooting that moment on video. So yes, and the only reason I was in Illinois is because I was driving to Indianapolis for the Chiefs playoff game and multiple NFL combines. So for people judging me in the comment section right now saying that's sad, it probably is, but guess what? Until I know what I'm missing, and I don't have to be sad about it because I'm, ignorance is bliss for me in that regard because I don't know what I'm missing out on. Although I do want to go to a Texas high school football game someday, but that's really tough when you're a sports producer producing in your own state. But Texas high school football is something I'd always want to see.
See, I know that if you did travel anywhere, what you would want to do is have it be football related. So
sports related, typically, yes.
Yeah,
especially if you get a press pass, you don't have to pay for parking or tickets.
So I could certainly see us maybe needing to like get you on a plane to Birmingham for like the Senior Bowl or something.
See, Matt, here's my problem with a plane right now. I can't fly it. So like I have concerns. I think the worst case scenario. So like it's so like I'm at least in a vehicle, my feet are near the ground and there's still a chance I'm everything's gonna be okay, even if I'm not the one driving. I do have my concerns about a plane and my luck in life. So that's all I'm saying in that regard. Plus, I'm a rather large man, and I'm pretty sure I would need 2 seats and a seatbelt extension. And being cramped in something like that, I'm not about that life right now. I understand people do it, and I understand it's possible, but I am just telling you that's how things go in my world. But the running joke Mick has for me, Mick really wanted to see me do a TV show where I have to travel around in an RV like John Madden or on a train and have to visit all these different spots across the country and make it into like its own little miniature sports travel show where somebody who's a germaphobe like me has to go in uncomfortable situations. And Mick's talked about it many times. He thinks it would be the funniest reality show in the world to do something like that.
I think he's onto something there. I think I may need to find some backers for this project.
Well, I wish you the best in your future endeavor. And Brian, talking about the jetpack here at 413, as long as I knew how to properly operate it, and I think there's a lot of logistical stuff involved. But you'd have to have a helmet, a mask. You'd have to have a backup parachute in case things went sideways. So there's a lot of things you'd have to train and learn to feel comfortable with something like that, Brian.
Randy wants to know, what about boats?
I've been on a pontoon boat at Lake of the Ozarks. But still, I'm going to need something that keeps me floatable because once you go in that water, man, there's, you see snakes around a lot of spots on Lake of the Ozarks and the water's pretty dirty. So I'm just saying.
Dave has got 48 down.
And that's awesome. And like my dad, when my dad retired from his job, he got a Harley Davidson, and like my dad traveled the world, or not necessarily the world, the United States. And like, like maybe when I get to a certain age, maybe that's something I want to do in life. And that gives me something to kind of look forward to. But right now, how are you guys going to get the best possible Chiefs coverage you want from me if I'm out here touring all these places, guys? Huh? You got to watch a certain amount of coaches film if I'm going to give you the analysis you guys want from me.
Well, we'll definitely put some Wi-Fi and some TVs and computer monitors and everything in the RV. So,
Well, Matt, good luck to you and your investors on getting that show situated.
I mean,
So,
there was a wanted to get a GoFundMe to send you somewhere. I think we could get a GoFundMe to fund the TV show. So
see, but here's the thing. Here's another thing people don't know about me. I don't like to be in debt to people. Mick reminds people at work all the time when they bring like snacks and stuff. Like, hey, Nick, I got your snack. I'm like, thank you. And he's like, oh, Nick's gonna feel like he's in debt to you now. That's not good. So,
in case you're wondering, this is exactly what happens when it's an hour and 15 minutes past the roster deadline, and the Chiefs have not told us anything. So I can tell you the roster moves the Buffalo Bills made, but.
Yeah, I mean, we know Denver Broncos. I'm sad because that guy's looking at it. The Raiders, McAllister, the wide receiver that had a really good day and had the return for a touchdown, had the really impressive catch for a touchdown. Like they kept McAllister, so I'm kind of bummed about that one because he was somebody I was kind of intrigued about just from a returner perspective. But I'll have to look in a little bit to see if their DN made it. I was bummed because the Jets defensive end, Braden McGregor, that I had on my draft board this year, I was hoping he would potentially be able to hit the market and the Chiefs may be able to get somebody like him. But they ended up getting Cameron Thomas, who kind of has a similar kind of power to him and everything. And so unfortunately that one didn't happen. Matt, you got my email a little while ago, right?
Yes, I did. And I will be getting it up momentarily. I was looking to see, but I was just looking to confirm. I think Marquez Valdez-Scantling is a Buffalo Bill.
Yeah, I didn't remember seeing his name, and they would have put something out there.
He is not on their list of cuts today, so apparently Marquez Valdez-Scantling is a Buffalo Bill. Frank Gore Jr. is not. If you want to, get out there and grab yourself some Frankie Gore Jr.
Yeah, well, and then I know Cody Schrader got waived by the Niners. I think they want to bring back on practice squad, but I'm curious to see what he'll end up doing.
That would be an interesting name to watch because I do know the Chiefs were interested in him as well. So I'm doing one more quick cruise here.
Mm-hmm.
Although I know that you are checking as well. So
oh yeah, that's what I do anytime you talk.
chances are exactly. Now you all just get to watch me multitask very, very slowly through all of my various. And one more trick to go and file not found. So.
Oh, I know what trick you were doing too. I'm not going to reveal it, but I know exactly what you were doing.
I do know MVS is hurt. Did he get put on IR? He wasn't put on. Did MVS get put on IR earlier?
The Bills just are formally announcing theirs right now.
I mean, I know he didn't get put on IR today. I know he got hurt a week or so ago, but I don't believe he's been placed on IR. So it looks like Marquez is a Bill. So there you go. Let's see what happens here when I try to put up your file.
I hope it works.
I need to remember how to do this.
Well, Matt, you got another question in between. I'll talk about that one.
Oh, yeah, that would make a whole lot. Hey, there you go. There's a good one because it's a few different people have asked about that.
No, I would not. So,
all right, next question.
No, I'll elaborate. Well, you can keep working. You can keep, doing stuff behind the scenes there. No, the reason Martavius Bryant is because where are you going to put him out on your roster, and on top of it, he's going to have to learn your scheme. So you're at least looking at 8 weeks into it, half the season, maybe December if you're doing that. And then the question kind of becomes, then why did you waive Justin Ross? Because Justin Ross had 3 years in your system. And if, it's going to be a similar kind of concept in terms of package player and everything in that regard. So now that I've said all this, maybe they'll do it. And I'll be terribly wrong. But no, I mean, right now, I think you've kind of got your wide receiver room. What I am curious about, and I'm going to go look at it here in a little bit, is Tim Patrick. I'm very intrigued by what he may want on the market, where he may end up. I mean, because that before his injury in the past, like he was a really intriguing player. So like that's something I'm kind of interested in where Tim Patrick's going to end up, and obviously I'm interested in P Ryan and where he's going to end up. So there are a handful of guys that did get waived or released today, but with somebody like with P Ryan and Patrick, like I said, if I remember correctly, they're both. I know P Ryan's the vested vet. I think Patrick's the vested vet too. And in that regard, like the Chiefs could go technically bring them in today, sign them or agree to terms, and they're on the roster. Then the Chiefs have to either make it 2 additional roster moves in whatever way they potentially do that. So in that regard, it'll be interesting. Yeah, Matt, I'm looking at it right now. Sorry, the Bills. Yeah, no, MVS is not. He was not on their players they moved on from, and they did not place him on IR today. They replaced Matt. They placed Matt Milano on IR, and the running back Evans on IR, but they did not place MVS on IR. So wherever that comment came from, no, it did not happen.
Jack, August 29th was very traumatizing. Nick, before you got here, I mentioned that August 29th was my first live stream.
Okay. I was like, what the heck happened?
I have not gone back to watch it, Jack. I'm now afraid to go back and watch it, but I appreciate that after 1 year, the product has progressed 100%. Thank you very much. That is very, very kind of you. And you've been a great supporter, Jack. I really appreciate it with your super chats. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think you even gifted some memberships. That was incredibly supportive. And you really appreciate everything that you've done to support the podcast. It has been greatly appreciated. There's so many of you who have done that, whether it's supporting 41 is the mic or supporting the Chiefs Digest channel here on YouTube. I greatly appreciate it. Super chat is wonderful, Jack. You are a kind and gentle sir. So thank you very much for that. And I may have to go back because I was telling Nick the other day that I generally hate the sound of my own voice and my own performance. So it's like, to me, it's like even excruciating transcribing interviews. I mean, that's one of the great things about artificial intelligence now, that you have AI transcription that helps you. So I get to listen to myself much, much less than I used to. I still have to listen to myself to verify it, but much less. But I was listening to the podcast the other day, going through it to put the YouTube chapters on, and I realized that I was saying a few generic, just crutch phrases a few too many times, and it was driving me to drink, Nick. I'm trying to stop that. I'm trying to improve. I'm trying to get better. Hopefully I'm better than I was a year ago on August 29th on that first live stream. But I want to be better next August 29th, Nick.
Look, man, that's all you can do is just be positive, move forward, and keep building. I don't think you realize, dude, the coffee has kicked in.
I realize this. Yes.
Like you can throw all the questions in the world at me, and here we go. Boom, Pano, right now. Let's go.
There you go.
Spiller, I think you're talking about the Chargers running back, obviously. Yeah, he was I went and looked up. He was one of the top 5 in my draft board that year. And I'm going to put my draft board up later because I know a lot of people are like, hey, what do you think about this person? What do you think about that person? And I'm just going to put up the draft board that I had for the past 4 years. And if they're on that, then like I thought at the time they fit the Chiefs. There may be guys that got waived that do fit the Chiefs now that I'm not thinking of at this point. Breida is at Matt Breida, who got released by the 49ers, if I remember correctly. He's been with the 49ers, Bills, 49ers back forth, and Dolphins in between, if I remember correctly. Might have been Dolphins. I don't know. It might have just been Bills. But either way, Breida's kind of at the point where he's taken, like I've talked about on the show before, there's a certain amount of hits a running back or receiver can take before some of their explosiveness starts to go and their agility starts to go and their juke isn't as effective. And when they have to slow down and reaccelerate, it isn't as effective over time. One of the modern miracles to it has been Tyreek Hill. With as many hits as he's taken, wear and tear he's had, Tyreek's been one of the few people that hasn't had that kind of decline that most guys do by the time they get to his age. And so Spiller, I think he's going to get claimed by somebody else because I know he's going to go through waiver claims. But I'm not going to be upset if the Chiefs were to put in a claim for him, or like I've said before, if they get P. Ryan, like those, I think those are both intriguing options that I think help enhance behind what they have with Carson Steele and also with Pacheco, and we'll see what happens with Clyde, and then we'll see what happens forever. So there's that aspect to it. So yeah, I mean, I'm not against it. Breeder, on the other hand, I think if he still had the same level of explosiveness, I think the 49ers would have probably kept him. But I know the Bills, it didn't seem like he fit in well with the Bills. And I don't think that, unfortunately, he's been in the league 7 or 8 years now at this point. When I saw the transaction sheet yesterday that I'll look up, and I don't think that I think he's at a point where it's starting to, unfortunately, probably turn to end of the road in the league in terms of what he used to be. Yeah, he's 7 years, been in the league 7 years. So yeah, he's it's at a point now where unfortunately it may not work out much longer in the league in terms of, you know, what he can bring from that position.
Yeah, Breida does seem to be probably a little past his prime, and running backs, that can happen in the blink of an eye. So Spiller could be interesting, but like I said, that could be blink of an eye. Things can change. So
yeah,
who knows? Maybe that's what even's happened with Samaje Perine. That's why maybe the Broncos are willing to move on. But only one way to find out, Nick.
That's right, Matt. And I thought you were going to say it there, but you didn't.
You know what? It's I needed to happen organically, and I needed to be deserved and earned. And I just,
deserved and earned.
I can't just dump my catchphrases in the middle of, I mean, let's face it, we're stalling for time, waiting for the Chiefs to do something here.
Hey, I get it, but we still have more questions somewhere. I know I saw a couple of them.
We've been kind of finally tuned was asking about surprising cuts elsewhere. We're kind of talking about that a little bit. I mean, here's the tough thing for me, and Nick's much better at it than I am, but I mean, I am so concentrated on the Chiefs 90-player roster that this time of year, me worrying about who's standing out on other people's 90-player rosters is the least of my worries. So not my greatest forte. I mean, I will see things that I think are interesting because maybe they were draftable players that didn't pan out. Maybe it's, there's a little bit of Brett Veach in me. It was like, hey, wait a minute. I like that guy in 2022 and he's available. Why not go get him now? And then, of course, there's also just players who remind me of my failure as what I would be as a GM, because I would have drafted Dante Foreman years ago, Nick, and that would not have been a great draft pick.
So, Matt, does that document work for you yet?
Yes and no. Well, I'm trying another angle. I was able to pull it up, but I didn't know if we wanted all your email details, and
Yeah, no, don't show my email details. I already get enough in the contact us section.
So we're going with Plan B.
Okay, all right. Yes. Well, I believe we have an FAU question from.
Oh yeah, I did see that. What time was that?
4:20.
There you go. I scrolled the wrong way. That's why I didn't see
what
it.
I'm here for, Matt.
4:20, he says.
There you go.
I like that. I'm amused.
All right, so I'll go through this one now. With Felix and Uzama, I've talked about it a couple of times or hinted at it. Whenever I'm saying they need additional defensive end depth, I'm saying that because he's not at the point where you would like him to be headed into year 2. The fact he played as many snaps as he did, yes, like you want him to get all those snaps, and he needs all those snaps. So it's a good thing on that front. But they didn't necessarily have the pass rushing impact that you would kind of hope for, especially when it started going against some of the tight ends and some of the offensive tackles that are probably waived today and are going to be on practice squads. That's where it's probably been a lot of it's been discouraging for some people. What I see with Inyudike Uzama is I see a defensive end that's more of a wide 9 style of guy, and if he rushes at an angle, I think that's where he's most effective right now. So outside of the tight end, coming at an angle against the tackle, and for the most part, that's kind of like the old Seahawks cover 3 scheme. And that's where I think he's best at right now. And I think that's where he's most effective. But in the Steve Spagnuolo scheme right now, he they want you to be strong against the run. You need to be able to hold up against the tackle or the tight end, be able to essentially see off the edge. Think Frank Clark, think George Karlaftis, think Mike Dana. And then you need to be able to also be able to do some loops, some of the TE stunts, potentially, kick inside if you need to, which is what Cameron Thomas is potentially going to bring to the table in some regards and what he can do with his size and his strength. So all those combined are really what you need to be successful in Steve Spagnuolo's scheme. And for Felix right now, he's still, unfortunately, I think at minimum a year away from being what you potentially want him to be. And I think this time next year, we will know what he is or is not. And I know that's not what people want to hear for a first-round pick, but I'm just telling you that's the reality of where it's at right now. Is you're still not going to know where he's at a year from now. But when Matt and I have talked about it, and I said, you need to get defensive end depth no matter what, you need to do that because hypothetically, I'm not wanting this to happen. I'm not wishing this to happen. But if Karlaftis got hurt or if Mike Dana got hurt, who is the defensive end that can hold up against in the run behind them? That can effectively do it and can effectively do it for 20, 30 plays a game if they need to. And that's where part of the concern and problem was coming. Oh, and another guy that I'm intrigued by, and I know Matt Lane is too, and Matt Lane's opinion I definitely respect. And I went and looked back at my draft notes from that year. KJ Henry from the Commanders, because I was telling Matt on the drive home, I was surprised that the Commanders waived KJ Henry. But I'm surprised that they did, but Dan Quinn's doing his own thing out there. And so everybody from the previous regime is up, they're up for a fire sale right now because they're trying to install their style of player in their culture. So, yeah, that's well, Matt, at least you tried.
We're gonna.
I'm proud of you for trying.
We're gonna take another pass at that. So,
all right. So yeah, all right. I'll have to try to think of a new way to try to do this for you. Let me see if I can.
Oh, it's definitely not your fault.
No, you're fine. Let me. There. I'm gonna see if this will work. Because what form do you have to have it in? It can't be PNG, right?
Right. It's got to be a PDF. I wasn't cheap.
It can't even be a JPEG. They're not. This
not be a JPEG.
You know something about that JPEG life?
It is not me. It's StreamYard.
Okay. All right, Matt, if you got another question, I don't as a producer, having dead air right now is killing us. So we're another question. Let's go here, Matt. You got another one. You got another one, 3 above. We can talk about with Mr.
Kathy has a great question. Do you guys have today's practice on tape? No, we don't, unfortunately. And here's the crappy thing: is that there was something really cool that I would love to tell you all that happened at practice today, but I can't. So, and it wasn't like cool, like awesome. It was just cool, funny. But I can't tell you because these practices are off the record. And after it happened, I was reminded that I can't tell anybody. So
okay.
Well, so I've just ruined it for all of you.
I didn't want to know anyways, Matt. So
hey, there you go. 88 flexing. Hicks have Eric Berry potential? Your 1 to 5 outlook? Thank you for the super chat.
I wouldn't compare those guys in the same way. I think Hicks is going to be his own player because like Eric Berry wasn't as big as Hicks is technically. Like Hicks is almost borderline linebacker with the size and strength and power and speed that he has. I don't remember Eric Berry having that same hitting ability that can hit with that level of ferociousness. So the number one thing I'm going to be intrigued by in the Chiefs-Ravens game 1, the biggest question I'm going to talk about right now is who is the spy for Lamar Jackson? Who is the player who's going to spy? In the past, Willie Gay potentially would be that guy. Maybe Drew Tranquil. But, like, I think Hicks is a very intriguing guy that could potentially be that. And then from a tight end perspective, I think he's going to match up well against maybe a Mark Andrews or Isaiah Likely. And no, that's actually his last name. I'm not just I'm not predicting on. I think his name's Isaiah Likely. I don't know. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying like those two tight ends. I think that's where Hicks comes into play more than anything else from a matchup perspective. Let's put him on one of those two big tight ends, or use him as a spy for Lamar. And when Lamar tries to come out here, have Jaden Hicks introduce himself. And I'm not asking for anything illegal to happen. I'm just saying, like, when you have somebody that can hit like Hicks and run like Hicks, you think twice about trying to take off and run. But can he keep up with Lamar if Lamar jukes or everything? I don't know. We'll find out in week 1. But if he does, that's going to be one of the things a lot of national media the next morning will be talking about after that Thursday night game. So that ties in, Matt, to the question at 420 from Jesus again. It's a couple above where he was last time on FAU. You're going to find it. I know you will. You're going to find it. Yeah, there it is. So then Chiefs defensive rookie of the year. Right now, I'm really going to think that Jaden Hicks is kind of the front runner for that. Like, I mean, I think he's going to get a ton of snaps. I think he's going to have the impact that a lot of people want. And I think he's kind of the front runner on that aspect of it. Offensive rookie of the year. If you're talking about somebody they drafted, then you're hoping it's Xavier Worthy or Jared Wiley. If you're talking about just a rookie in general, Carson Steele is going to come into play in that one, to where Carson may have some impact at certain points during the year in some crucial moments, whether it's in goal line, short yardage situation, maybe some special teams plays where Carson Steele is going to have a big difference on this offense in some of those crucial key situations, to where if the Chiefs need to get a short yardage play, instead of Mahomes having to hold on to it in the Super Bowl game on a 4th and 1 or a 4th and short to really keep that game moving, maybe Carson Steele takes that ball and boom, plows over everybody with Trey Smith, Creed Humphrey, and Joe Tooney and runs it down their throats. That's the hope that Carson Steele brings to me, is that he can be that powerful running back that they've needed to be able to just bulldoze some people over. We always talk about the belldozer, but I want the steel dozer. It's efficient, it's effective, and it also happens to have a pet alligator. Like, I know that's the theme, the story that everybody wants to talk about, but I'm telling you, I've said it before in here. Carson Steele, he's got a little bit of Kareem Hunt to his game in terms of what he can bring this offense from an athletic ability. He's not at that same level of explosiveness, but the stiff arm, the ability to run over, that lower body leg drive and strength that he's got, all that combined is something that this offense has missed. It doesn't mean Pacheco is not a good running back or a powerful running back. Pacheco, like we've talked about on here before, Pacheco is like Fred Flintstone starting up his vehicle. That's the way he runs the entire time. And I'm not knocking on him. That's what
it
works.
is very Flintstonian. You are correct.
He's getting ready to start up the vehicle, and it's just exactly the same way. But Clyde, but Pacheco keeps running that way and stomping like that. And like that's not a bad thing. That's just his style. And like he's an energy starter and giver. Because if you're talking about two guys on that team, especially during training camp, Drew Tranquil was the tempo setter on defense more days than not, to where he was getting the defense riled up and getting the offense riled up, to where there's a couple plays that I have that we shot this year in 9-on-7 where Trey Smith and Tranquil are going at it before and after the snap and during the snap. And Trey had some fun with it. Drew had fun with it. And then you got plays where Tranquil's, going in pass protection against Isaiah Pacheco, and that got physical. And Pacheco, Tranquil won early on, the Pacheco won, the Pacheco's celebrating, Pacheco's high-fiving. And they're doing that because they're trying to get through training camp and have fun with it, just like I did with the coffee drink that I had that's got me amped up right now. So that was Pacheco's way of having some of that coffee on some of those days when it turned into Groundhog's Day over and over again at Chiefs training camp. So, Matt, who are your defense and offensive rookies of the year?
I really can't argue with that. I mean,
but I want you to, Matt.
I can't. I'm no way I am betting against Jaden Hicks. I mean, I am still. I even asked him after the game the other night, what is wrong with you? What?
I hope you didn't say it like that, because I'd be offended if I was
I didn't
James.
quite say it like that, but I'm
I'm
like,
glad.
dude, I have been trying to figure out the life of me how you ended up in the fourth round. And how did this happen? I'm like, did anybody ever tell you, your agent or as a team, or anybody ever said, hey, dude, this is the reason why we were thinking about not drafting you, or why you fell in the fourth round? He's like, no. I mean, I haven't learned anything about him that makes me believe that, why he fell to the fourth round. I mean, he doesn't appear to be a jerk. He doesn't appear to be lazy. He doesn't appear to be stupid. I mean, he appears to be the opposite of all of those things. I haven't heard anything like doesn't, clean his shower shoes. He, leaves towels around the locker room. He, you know, dust crops the off front office. There's nothing about him that appears to be a problem whatsoever. And so, no, I mean, I'm with you. I think he's going to play a big role this year. He is going to be huge on special teams. And yes, I am very eager to see if he gets a shot at trying to take on Lamar Jackson on Thursday night, because that is a collision that I want to see happen. Because I think that as soon as he gets put a hit like that on some film, there's going to be some teams that when he's on the field, their quarterback is going to be running a little bit scared. And that's exactly what, honestly, the Chiefs haven't had in a while, because Josh Allen has run against the Chiefs as though the Chiefs don't have anybody who can tackle him. And he's just run with reckless abandon. If you can make Josh Allen think just a second about running against the Chiefs, that would be a huge advantage. So I'm very eager to see what that happens there, Nick. And so, yeah, Jaden Hicks is my bet there. I mean, I get what your line of thinking is, and I don't necessarily disagree with it. My contrarian view would be that, you know what? I think the Chiefs would be better off if Kingsley Suamadi is their offensive rookie of the year.
Matt, we gotta get that. Come on, we're gonna get that someday.
We're gonna get that someday.
Suamadi.
I say with an Ozark accent, so I say all the syllables. I may just crush a couple of them together.
Yeah, it happens.
Suamadi.
Hey, you're gonna be proud. You're gonna be proud of me right now.
Yes.
I hope this works.
Did someone send you the roster?
No. God, no. I would be jumping for. I would have done cartwheels and have been like,
well, I have a version of the thing.
I just did a PDF too while you were talking. Right. So this is, let me see. I got a free opportunity online, so I took it. I think this is right. It doesn't have my email information in it.
All right, we have two versions. We will see.
There, I just sent it to your Google.
Yep.
I feel like we gotta. Okay. I know some people said they have some questions that they want us to get to.
What do you see you'd like to ask while I play with PDFs?
I don't know. I was going up to the top. Somebody said there's
and Cook Crush Incorporated. I like that, Pono. Yeah, I mean, Randy, Washington State, known for offense, not defense. I mean, get it, but what happened in Pullman? I mean, was there anybody that had something bad to say about this kid? Because I still haven't figured it out.
Oh, so what? When I did some checking around on it, the speculation, not the guarantee, but the speculation was some people thought he was going to be some people feel he's going to be an undersized linebacker.
Oh, he's a tweener. I think is about the worst thing that you could say about him.
That's what people are saying. Like, they're concerned over time that he's going to have to move to a linebacker. And so that allegedly, from some speculation, that's why some think that he dropped where he did, but the Chiefs may benefit from that overthinking.
Yeah, and I tell you what, I mean, if he had to play linebacker, who cares? Because he's a reckless, crazy person out there. I mean, I love it.
You got a question that's right in your wheelhouse if you didn't already ask it from Pono. It involves the NIR that we've gotten a lot this weekend on.
There you go.
This one is for you, Matt. If there's ever a question that involves the rule book and the due diligence you've done on it, this one's like it's like a fastball right down the middle.
I'm just verifying that we don't have anything, because I saw a tweet from someone else that you may have seen also, and I think it's just a promotional thing. Because I think that people were expecting the roster to be out by now.
I mean, people expect it, but like that's why I was surprised. You're like, hey, you want to do this at 3 after it's over? I'm like, all right, but I don't think it's going to be out till 5. So I'll be
Well,
here.
the
And I
last few
even
years, it's been out at
specifically, I
3:45.
specifically didn't even have the coffee until I got on the show because I knew you were going to need me to be amped up for a little bit.
Well, and the craziest thing is that I for better or for worse, I also followed that up. I doubled down on that. The Chiefs having everything out at a reasonable time, and the NFL helping us out there if they did not. By telling Ryan Tracy, I would be able to join him for Locked On Chiefs at 5 o'clock. So.
Well, Matt, have you texted him to let him know that it's 50-50 right now or what?
I'm crossing my fingers that something good happens. Oh, right. Your version is much nicer than mine. So we're going to go with yours. Although,
Yeah,
about the question that you have
no, yeah.
very, very eloquently pointed to.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the deal on Clyde and the NIR list, and the complication is that you can put a player on the non-football injury list or non-football illness list even during the regular season. However, when you do that, I mean, it has the same rules essentially as the injured reserve in that you do it and it's a minimum of 4 week stay. The other problem with it, and now this isn't required, but if you put a player on that list, you're not required to pay them. Teams can choose to. And if they choose to, then obviously they take the cap hit for it. But they're not obligated. What CBA actually says, the collective bargaining agreement, is that players are not entitled to being paid while they're on the NIR list. Non-injury, non-football injury, NFI. There you go. See, it's this hour and 47-minute wait is making me edgy, Nick, and I haven't even had coffee. So, there's a lot of downsides to a player going on NFI. And there's even some, I mean, I think there would probably even be disputes. There would probably be even a grievance from maybe even the NFLPA that if you put a player on NFI without their permission, that maybe the player or the NFLPA does not believe that it's an appropriate designation, they could very well challenge it. The NFL basically has no list whatsoever to deal with mental health for its players. They say NFI is the catch-all, but it's rarely used. When it has been used, it has been used in extreme situations, like the player in Minnesota who, was violent and threatening himself and others with harm. They put him on NFI, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about something else entirely. So you're talking about it, and the NFI list is not intended to protect players. It is designed to protect teams. It is designed to protect teams from what happens if a player gets hurt working out on their own. What happens if a player gets hurt playing basketball? What happens if, we saw it with Eric Berry. What happens if a player develops cancer, gets sick? How does the team protect itself from being obligated to pay a player that gets hurt or develops an illness that they don't want to have, the baggage for? They don't want to take the freight. And with mental health, there's no solution there. There's nothing specifically to protect the players. So that's my beef with it, is that that's not intended to protect the player. It's intended to protect the team. And it's even an argument about whether Clyde would be a specific for this. And before I bring Nick back in, just in case he didn't want to be associated with me in my comments, that's the thing I would just add to it is just that there needs to be protections for the players, and the NFLPA needs to go for that, because I absolutely believe this with my heart. There is no way in the world that Clyde Edwards-Helaire is the only player in the NFL suffering from PTSD. I am sure that there are others. He's just the only one that's had the courage to come out and talk about it.
That's my bad, Matt.
No, I thought maybe I
accidentally
was
hit
getting
the
too dicey, and you
I hit the
didn't want to make sure you were next to me when I went
I
viral.
I hit the wrong refresh button because it's right next to the NFL transaction button.
Oh, it's a
So it didn't.
miracle that I haven't done that. So
So that I take the L on that one. I apologize to everybody, but we needed some suspense before the 5 o'clock hour hits, and that gave you that. You're like, where did Nick go? Where's he at right now?
like I said, I just assumed that you ejected so that you wouldn't be on screen when I
No, I
went
have
viral.
5 tabs open. Does this let you zoom in or no? Is this the PDF I sent you, or is this a different one?
This is the PDF you sent me.
Was it the most recent one I
I
sent you?
think so. No, you know what? It is actually not. Where's the
Okay.
PDF you sent me?
I don't know. It's in
It
your.
is not.
I sent it to your
All right.
sheet. I sent it to two different
This
emails.
you
It
know
says
what?
roster is the subject.
You know what, Jack? This is not any better than it was last year on August 29th. So
Yeah, but you have me to help tap dance through it. Okay, we're gonna tap dance
exactly.
through it together.
I
Not
was
alone, Matt.
all by myself.
That's right.
So
You're not alone right now, unless I hit the refresh button. Then I have
still
to come back
can't
into the
believe
room
that the
multiple
Chiefs
times.
have not sent out their roster.
Matt, like I don't. I remember there's one time I didn't get until 6 or 7 one year. Like I'm just telling you. Like
I just thought we were past that. I thought we were better.
I like your hat, Matt. So, all right, you got another question? Because I know I feel bad for people right now.
I feel terrible. I feel like I feel like I am just. It's like election night waiting for a projection call on who won. I know. I feel like it's going to be at 5 o'clock, and I'm going to be like, "Well, hey everybody, we don't know who won. Good luck."
Thanks for stopping by. No. Yeah.
Norman wants to know what players we think are going to the practice squad.
Yeah. So, the guys, I'll start in order. The first one that I think has a really good chance of getting there. I think that's it. Yeah, it's a cleaner one.
You know what I'm going to do to make it even easier is that we don't need this for now. So we'll just take that bad boy down.
I think I have all the names on there that we're still unsure of at this point, and where we're at numbers wise.
I believe you are correct, because we have not heard a ton. And you know what? I'm going to take a little bit of that L, because maybe we would have gotten a few of these if I hadn't scheduled the live stream at 3 and I'd spent the last hour and 52 minutes, trying to find out who's been released and cut and on the phone and everything. But I, naively believed that the Chiefs would be done by about 3:45 at a regular time, or that the NFL would have their list out at a reasonable time, and neither of those things have happened.
I already see one error. I forgot to take Oladukin off. There, I forgot to delete that. Oh well,
it says 2 though, so we'll
I forgot to delete his name though from there. That's my bad. But in terms of practice squad, one of the, I think there towards the bottom, depending on what happens officially with Nico Remigio, Montreal Washington, and Cornell Powell, I could see any of those 3 guys potentially being on practice squad. I think Baylor Cupp is a guy that's somebody that I expect to be on practice squad. We'll see what happens with CJ Hansen and Ethan Driscoll. I think both those are practice squad worthy. Shu Godric, I would understand, but like Matt talked about earlier, we'll see what happens between Reese Zamet and Shu Godric, or Jason Godric as written there. From a defensive line perspective, we'll see what happens with Neil Farrell, what his tweet actually meant. Because if he does get waived, then I could see him being on the practice squad. I could see Matt Dickerson being on practice squad. I could see Malik Herring being on there. I could see Truman Jones being on there. I could see Fabian Lovett. Doesn't mean they're going to all be on there, but I could see 2 or 3 of them potentially, depending on numbers. We're still waiting to see, obviously, what's going to happen with Curtis Jacobs and Cole Christensen. But the people I put on the back end of each one of these are people that I could totally see on the practice squad. So if you're looking at the back end of each of them, I deliberately put the last couple people because I think the last 3 to 4, depending on how many numbers they have, could potentially join the practice squad. So Matt, do you have any thoughts?
Yes, I'm pretty torn, because I think if I start putting together the numbers, I would end up with, because what I do when I start putting together the practice squad, I mean, I just go with the players that I like the players that I think I want to see more of, players who have the most potential. And the reality of it is that all those things are true for the practice squad, but you do have 16, 17 spots with the international exemption, but you've also got to put together a practice squad that gives you a scout team. So you're occasionally going to have some players on a practice squad that are there because you may just need an extra linebacker or an extra offensive lineman so that you don't have like starters running on your scout team too. So that's why sometimes there's players on a practice squad that you might question or make a little bit squirrely about. But I mean, I do think with Clyde's ailments and everything like that, that if the Chiefs are going to go with 3 running backs on the active roster, I think you almost have to have 2 running backs on the practice squad. And so I think Keontae Ingram could absolutely be coming back. Monty Bailey, maybe it's door number 3. The Chiefs look for somebody who's off the waiver wire. There's a bunch of receivers that I think deserve to be on the practice squad, and it wouldn't surprise me if they are. I mean, even as many as the Chiefs are keeping on the active roster: Remigio, Montrell Washington, Cornell Powell, all practice squad candidates for me. Baylor Cupp, absolutely. I think he's a practice squad candidate. Ethan Driscoll, Chu Godric, if needed it for the international exemption, if that's an option. Didn't mention Louis Rees-Zammit. I mean, he's obviously an option. One of the guys has already been cut. CJ Hansen, if he's not on the 53, absolutely on the practice squad. I've lost track now, Nick. I don't know how many. Let's see, 1, 2, 5, 6. I think I'm up to 9, and I haven't got the defense yet, so that's a problem.
Sure,
I think you're looking at a couple of defensive linemen: Truman Jones, Fabian Lovett, 11. I could see a lot of linebackers. I could see all 3 guys cut today with Jack Cochran, Curtis Jacobs, and Cole Christensen. Then you need a corner and a safety. Kamal Haddon, I think, will end up on the practice squad, very likely, unless he's claimed by someone else. Deion Bush, I think, will end up on the practice squad. He doesn't have to go through waivers. So I've named off a few too many, so I'm probably going to have to lose somebody. Probably be somebody on offense, so maybe I'm only keeping 1 running back. Maybe I'm keeping 2 wide receivers. Maybe it's only a couple of offensive linemen. But you definitely need a little bit of distribution at every position. You need to look at your active roster to see where you do need somebody. And that's where I haven't balanced mine for that. And that's something that obviously Brett Veach will have to do.
Agreed, Matt. Agreed.
Let's see what else.
I've been refreshing. We don't. There's at this point, if we don't get it a 5 from either the NFL or the Chiefs, I'm officially concerned at that point.
You're officially concerned. I'm not saying I'm going to be officially concerned, although I will say that my last words when I left the office today for the Chiefs was, I just want to make sure that you're not going to be releasing the roster at 6:00 or something crazy like that. And I was told that we'll only be doing that if something has gone wrong. So, Norman, I'm noticed. I didn't mean to do that, Norman. I can come back to that, but I did. This is the question I want to go to next. Was from John. Thoughts on the Chiefs trying to grab Frank Gore Jr.?
So he was technically waived today, so he's going to go through waivers. So if there's a team that needs a running back that would like to claim his contract, that would be a possibility in that front. So I think the Chiefs, if I'm in their shoes right now, I'm intrigued. Like I said, again, with P. Ryan and potentially Cody Schrader would be another one that I'm intrigued by to put on practice squad. P. Ryan I would put on active roster. But I mean, and Spiller's another one we talked about from the Chargers. Those are kind of the ones that I'm personally kind of going to keep tabs on what happens after 11 a.m. tomorrow. So we'll see on that. But I mean, I know the Bills, supposedly the report was the Bills want to put him back on the practice squad if he clears waivers.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that, for the practice squads these days, because of the current collective bargaining agreement, there is a very tight window that of pay structure for players on the practice squad. The vast majority of the players once upon a time you could guarantee money, you could pay bonuses, you could pay a lot more above sticker price, if you will, for players to lure them to your practice squad. And that was one thing that teams didn't want to get involved with. They didn't want to get involved in bidding wars, and they wanted to cut that down. So now there's a pay scale for the practice squad based on years of experience. And there can be a little leeway in there, but by and large, there's not a lot of give. I mean, it's not a huge difference between what one team can offer versus another when it comes to practice squads. So a lot of times when players sign with a practice squad, it's for the opportunity. It's where they think that there's a better fit, the best place for them. I mean, there's a little bit of choosing. So, and if players get to choose an opportunity to choose their destination, and they did too when they get to the practice squad, based on who's offering them a contract. I mean, is Kansas City a more desirable place for Frank Gore Jr. than Buffalo? No. I mean, a running back may look at it and say, wait a minute, they got Pacheco, steals the flavor of the month. Where do I fit in? I mean, that can be a problem. So it's not like you can go out there and outbid teams for practice squad players. Basically, what you can offer a practice squad player is an opportunity. And obviously, the one thing that the Chiefs can offer our practice squad players is potential to win a ring. I mean, you can win a ring from the practice squad. So, I don't want to make it sound like the Chiefs don't have an advantage. I think that is an advantage, but at the same time, it can go against them. Because there can be teams that are like, wait a minute, the Chiefs are stacked. I don't have a chance. Why am I going to go there? I mean, I'd be buried. And sometimes there's teams that leave the Chiefs because they're like, wait a minute, this team's too good. I got a better chance of competing for a spot on another team than I do in Kansas City. So it can go both ways. Randy asking about the difference between released and waived. So you want to take that one, Nick? Feel free.
Yeah, I'll give you a chance to go use your phone and everything, since we'll just go back and forth at this point. Yeah, so released means a player has 4 or more vested years in the NFL. They've completed 4 years of service within the league. So that means as soon as a team releases them, they are free to sign anywhere before the trade deadline. So before the trade deadline, middle of the year, they can go, once they get released, they can go sign with any team that they want. Once they've officially been put on the NFL transaction sheet. There are times where somebody reports, they're going to release such and such, and then they don't do it. It was a head fake. And then they get a team that calls and says, we would really like to trade for that person and force them here. If you would like to do this for a 5th, 6th, 7th round pick. Can't take that call right now. But now in terms of waived, it's somebody that has less than 4 years. So if it's a person that's a rookie this year, whether undrafted or a draft pick, first year, they only have 1 year, 2 year, 3 years of service. So for example, like Matt talked about earlier on social media, on Twitter, Kadarius Toney technically does not have 4 years of service yet. This is the final year of his rookie deal. And so if a team picks him up, waiver claims him before 11 a.m. tomorrow, they take on his contract. So anybody that gets claimed off waivers, you are taking on their contract in its current form. So if somebody clears waivers tomorrow after 11 a.m., every NFL team gets to set a new contract with them, a new, hey, we're gonna do this instead of that before. But in turn, hypothetically, say Kadarius Toney does not get claimed off waivers, then the Chiefs take on that money on their cap for the year. Well, so if you're a Chiefs fan or you're the Chiefs and you're rooting and crossing your fingers right now, you're hoping that a team claims Kadarius Toney to give that $2 million potentially in cap relief because they're taking on that contract.
Yeah, and Randy's asking like on. Some sites, they will just say everybody was released. That's because sometimes release gets used interchangeably with waived.
And it shouldn't. Yeah, and it shouldn't. It should
waived,
not. It will not happen on this Q&A.
No, we will not do that. Cut gets interchangeably used for both, and it can apply to both. I mean, that's at least a universal term. Players are going to use the word cut. They're not typically going to say I got released or waived. They're going to say I got cut. But waived has a specific meaning, released has a specific meaning. I mean, technically speaking, terminated the contract has a specific meaning. Typically, I mean, obviously, terminated means players have usually been made a free agent immediately. Released means that they've been made a free agent immediately. Waived obviously means that other teams get to claim them. So yes, those terms should not be used interchangeably. Some do. Like, and Randy was specifying things like Louis Rees-Zammit and Justin Ross were released. No, they were both waived. So try not to trust sources that don't be specific and tell you exactly what you need to know. But that's just me. I'm not telling you not to use ESPN. I'm just telling you, take with a grain of salt.
We get a good question at 4:38 with Dr. Ozzy.
Dr. Ozzy.
We'll go to that one if you want to.
Let's go to it. Aha, the old Kansas Jason Bean into the practice squad. Colts fans furious that they cut him.
I agree with you, Dr. Ozzy. I was really surprised that he was not on the 53 because he had some shining moments in the Colts game. Like, he had some throws in there that he threw in some tight windows and coverage and delivered on a couple touchdowns. Jason Bean looked really good in the Colts system. And he went to, what I'll say is he went to a really good spot to go be there with the Colts head coach, Shane Steichen, if I remember correctly, because Shane knows how to develop. Shane sneakily knows how to showcase quarterbacks and make them look good. So think about this in the future. If you're a quarterback that is coming in the league, whether you're undrafted or you're like a 5th, 6th, or 7th round, go to the Colts or go wherever Shane Steichen's at or Andy Reid's at, because those guys are going to develop you. And part of it is, if you look at Jalen Hurts and part of the downfall last year, because Shane Steichen's not there to kind of help develop them. So like Jalen Hurts took a step back in some regards that he normally wouldn't have if Shane that I believe if Shane was there. But for somebody like Jason Bean, yeah, I was really impressed, and I'm like, whenever I watched a couple of his games, I'm like, if he got waived, that's an intriguing third developmental quarterback that still has a lot of the athletic ability and the throwing ability that Chris Oladokun does, but he hasn't been with Andy Reid yet to see how it works. So I mean, that's a name that I will admit I'm pretty intrigued by. And Sam McDowell, the Kansas City Star, put out that Matt Dickerson did not make the Chiefs' initial 53 per source.
Okay.
And see, here's another thing that Matt and I do on here. We recognize the other beat writers when they do it. Okay, we're going to show respect to them.
Interesting. I'm not interesting.
Okay.
I have a list. I'm not 100% sure that it is correct. So
you got me nervous that I had an email I wasn't paying attention to, but I just looked. And this isn't Chiefs related, but Cecil Lammy out of Denver says that league sources tell him that Tim Patrick is signing with the Lions. So if that's the case, that was pretty quick, within 2 hours.
Yes.
Matt is scheming right now.
I believe we have the Chiefs 53.
Why is that?
Listed.
I don't see it.
I have it in a somewhat secret spot. And
okay. If you're where I think you are, then I'll go search. I'll search one of the 2 spots.
There you go. I mean, assuming, I will say that this is coming from a Chiefs information, so that's why I'm lending it great credence.
Well, Matt, if you want to pull up another question, I can answer that one while you continue to look and size that thing up.
Yeah, let me send a text here.
If you can go to Pano's, I'll.
Let's put it this way: I have a list that apparently it's the 53, but it's not all the guys who are cut. So we would just have to kind of. What time did you say you want to go to?
439, two below Pono. We can go to that.
Oh, well, then there you go.
Well, you continue to get logistics on that. All right, Pono, what plays would you run with Pacheco and Steele in at the same time? What would be interesting on that is for people that use Madden, the fullback dive with the fake toss. That one would be intriguing to use in a different way. And if you have one, I think Andy Heck and Andy Reid have done this before, but if you had both of them in a 2 running back set out of shotgun, and the Chiefs have run this before. They ran it with Ware and West, but there's other times that they've run this too. And if you had both of them, I think there's different ways you could do this to where you misdirect one way, then you run a sweep the other way, off tackle type of run. Like you could do some sweeps off that, some off tackles, but you use that first motion to get the backers guessing and then give the offensive lineman a step or two to get in front and kind of seal that off and use them from a power run game perspective. And then there's some intriguing ways where you could do some traps off of it, and you could do it out of pistol formation. The Chiefs have done that with those guys to where you have them behind the quarterback or you have them a little offset depending on how you want to handle it, and you get them the ball and the other person's there to either be the lead blocker or to misdirect. So I think there's a lot of handful of things they could do with Pacheco and Steele, and they're both from an athletic perspective. I think they're both in the same ballpark to where you wouldn't have an issue with having them both on the field. I think they're a lot more interchangeable in what they can do, especially between the tackles. Outside the tackles, I don't know. I think Pacheco looked a little bit quicker in training camp this year, to where he's gotten a little bit better on some of his lateral quickness and getting to his top end speed a little bit quicker on the explosiveness. Steele, I would be intrigued to see more outside runs on that, like tosses and things of that nature, and what he could potentially build up in that regard. Matt, how you doing over there, bud?
Well, I am at least told that the list I have is not correct.
Okay.
Although it has 51 players other than the 2 players that the Chiefs have drafted or traded for. So, and there are many players I know who, I don't see any player that I know there's on this 53 that has been released. I see a couple that I'm just surprised are on, but your mileage may vary. So until we have confirmation, I will hold tight. But there you go. I wish I don't want to lead anybody astray, because like I said, this looks potentially correct, and I don't know why that it would be out there. I don't know if you've seen it, Nick. I can send it to you if you don't know.
No, I'm good keeping the mystery right now.
Good keeping the mystery.
I don't need things in my head that may be inaccurate. I'm good. I'm good with not having that if that's the case.
So, all right. Well, we will need to make a decision. I need to make a decision here about 5:15 about whether we continue or whether, can I turn it over to you, Nick?
No, I'm not doing this. I'm not getting paid for this. This is all
not getting paid for this.
This is all for free, man. This is me doing this as a solid for you.
Okay. Well, with that.
Okay. But if people do have questions, you got your final questions, we can get through those, unless you need to go.
No, I'm increasingly believing that this list is actually correct. So I would say that if this list is correct, my only surprise on this list is that it does show Ethan Driscoll making this team, which does surprise me. It also does not have, and let me just verify that. No, I'm not speaking out of school here. And if this was information not coming from the Chiefs, I would feel very differently about sharing it. But there's also apparently a second source that is telling us that Ethan Driscoll may have made this team, and Lucas Niang is not listed. That would be the only major surprise that I have seen. But
Look at your
I'll tell
phone going crazy.
tell you what, I am going to let you speak for a moment.
All right. If you got to mute yourself, whatever, you go ahead. And I'll try to go through some of the questions, even if they don't necessarily pop up. So I'll go through the next one that I saw. Let's see here. So finally, Tune, I know you asked during Chiefs bye week, Nick, you should go to Texas for a high school game. Here's the problem, finally, Tune. I produce our high school football show every Friday night. So my Fridays are booked from this upcoming Friday, which is the first week Missouri is going to be having football until December. So you got to remember, I'm a sports producer. I don't just do Chiefs exclusively. I'm a sports producer for our high school show every Friday, Under the Lights, which you can check on KSHB 41, starting at 10 o'clock this upcoming Friday, and every Friday until at least Thanksgiving. And then that's whenever the state championships happen. So I will be out shooting high school football. I'm going to shoot 2 games this week, and then I'm going to go in and make sure those are on and make sure all the other games that we have are set up. I think there's 7 or 8 we're going to have on our air, maybe more. I don't know, in case the competition's watching right now. Then once football gets into full swing next week, I'll be producing our Chiefs pregame show and the Chiefs play the Ravens. I'll be doing that one. And then I'll have high school on Fridays, and then it goes from there. And then college football actually starts this Thursday. Matt, you're waving your hands. Go for it. You have to turn your mic on, though. Mic will be the key.
Yep. I muted myself while I was on the phone. So this is official. So I'm going to run it down here as quickly for you all. I unfortunately cannot put it up on screen, but here's your breakdown. Quarterback, obviously, Patrick Mahomes, Carson Wentz. Running backs, Carson Steele, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Isaiah Pacheco. Receivers, Hollywood Brown, McCole Hardman, Sky Moore, Rashee Rice, Juju Smith-Schuster, Justin Watson, Xavier Worthy. Tight ends, Noah Gray, Peyton Hendershot, Travis Kelce, Jared Wiley. Offensive line, Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, Joe Tooney, Ethan Driscoll, Kingsley Suamadia, Jawan Taylor, Mike Caliendo, CJ Hansen, Wanye Morris, Hunter Norzad. Defensive line, Felix Anadike-Uzama, Mike Dana, Malik Herring, George Karlaftis, Chris Jones, Derrick Nottie, Tershawn Wharton, Mike Pennell. By my count, that is 8 defensive linemen. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Very surprising. Linebacker, Nick Bolton, Leo Chenal, Jack Cochran, Cam Jones, Drew Tranquil. Cornerbacks, defensive backs, Nick Jones, Trent McDuffie, Chris Rowland Wallace, Jalen Watson, Joshua Williams, Brian Cook, Nazi Johnson, Justin Reed, Harrison Butker. They got out of order here at the end. Justin Reed, Shamari Connor, Jaden Hicks. Specialist, Harrison Butker, James Winchester, Matt Ariza. So between that and then also obviously BJ Thompson and Charles Omenihu placed on the reserve list. So that is your Chiefs roster for 2024, the initial 53.
Interesting. I'll have to physically look at it to be able
to. I will send you, Nick. I will send it to you. I don't, like I said, I don't know that you necessarily want to continue going on. I do have to leave, everybody. I'll tell you what, though. I'm going to see if I can't come back later tonight and do a full breakdown of it now that we do have the full roster. But that is, like I said, to me, Nick, I mean, first take, Ethan Driscoll making it over Lucas Niang is a surprise, but not necessarily earth-shattering.
Right.
But a little bit of a surprise. CJ Hansen making it, not a surprise to me. That was a tough call for me not putting him on my 53, and I wish I had, but my last change was Derrick Prince over CJ Hansen, and CJ Hansen stuck. I'm a little surprised, and that obviously does not include, I guess when I was going off the list there, it does not include Cameron Thomas. I mean, that is just the name that got left off, so that was the only thing that's missing there was Cameron Thomas. So there are 9 defensive linemen on the list.
Yeah.
So there you go. Like I said, unfortunately have to break. We'll see if we can make it back later tonight. I can drag Nick back into this, but if I can come back at 7:00 at the usual Tuesday time and maybe talk with all of you about this for a while, I will gladly do so. But Nick, thank you very much for joining me for the rain delay this afternoon.
I hope I tap danced a little hard out for all of you.
I want you to remind me of this next year when I schedule the live stream for roster cutdown day, and we will arrange it at a different time. But other than that, there you go. You can replay it, of course, to get the complete roster. We'll have it up in Chiefs Digest here in a little bit as well.
Yeah,
too,
and I know where you found it at. I just had to log into it.
There you go.
So all right, I'll build it up here in a minute. I know you got to do your thing. Go for it.
All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us during the rain delay today. Greatly appreciate it. I'll try and catch you later. And if not, we will see you on 41 is the mic this weekend, everybody.